place here, kicking off our Group A Grand Finals. And, well, it's probably going to be Magneto on one side, Human Torch on the other, banned out straight away by BRR PATAPIM. They're saying, Smashers, we cannot allow this guy to get the Human Torch into his hands.
We've seen a lot more of this as well from teams if the Loki does get saved from Zero Tenacity, where, you know, the likes of Zenost and stuff are all business. Just wanted to try to get this character. I think Gonski's also been very keen on just making sure that the Loki, because it's such good like anti-peel if you get dove on by like dive duelists. Obviously a fantastic ultimate. You can copy whatever ultimates are on the opponent's board as well if you can't get your own Lunar Snow or your own Cloak and Dagger. So the fact that BRR PATAPIM's first two bans are Human Torch and Cloak and Dagger is interesting. And then that initial save onto Captain America. BRR PATAPIM are just doing stuff that nobody else is.
Yeah, BRR PATAPIM, question is, do they try and ban like Luna now to stop a Luna Loki from coming through? Psylocke gone, making sure that Pokey cannot follow up on Polly's marauding in the backline. Of course, it is going to be the predicted Lunar Snow ban here from BRR PATAPIM. On the other side, Zero Tenacity do not want to go for a Loki versus Loki matchup. However, Lunar Snow is protectable here for BRR PATAPIM if they want to bring out that premier strategist.
Yeah, but there's the picky poison. If you save Lunar Snow here, the Loki is just going to copy the fate of both worlds as often as possible. So they're actually going to save the Human Torch to give Tanuki something to play on. And when you have the Psylocke actually taken out by Zero Tenacity, it does make sense. We have seen a little bit more, not common, but a little bit more, hey, your duelist is cracked, we are taking out 4 of his mains and playing him on like his 5th best character. It hasn't worked all too well for characters like 2C and stuff, but for Tanuki, yeah, it is really a pick your poison.
All right. Luna taken away from both sides. The fate of both worlds will not be ringing through our ears today. One last protect here from the side of Zero Tenacity. Do we want to go for maybe the Magneto or the Emma, which are yet to be banned? For Magneto, Ducky is fantastic at both of these, of course, but they wonder if maybe BRR PATAPIM are going to invest the ban on the Emma. It's actually going to be the protect on the Magneto. Okay. Zero Tenacity just removed.
Because I think this last one is a little bit more flexible, and you haven't, like, we've seen that BRR PATAPIM have not gone for banning out Emma Frost at all. Magneto a little bit, but it has been a little bit later than we've seen consistently from teams. So, you know, we were saying this at the start of the show, like, Captain America is something that they put a lot of stock into. So you do have BRR PATAPIM being able to save the Human Torch and the Captain America for themselves, but also make sure that Zero Tenacity can't play those characters.
All right, a very different ban setup from BRR PATAPIM compared to the classics that we've been seeing across many other teams, and especially over in Group B, where people have really been leaning towards that triple strategist ban, which tends to encourage Adam Mantis play. I think that Adam Mantis being kind of the second choice, the B tier support strategist lineup, has allowed for a lot more usage out of a Torch, who can get a lot more value out of a huge amount of poke damage that he gets out when most of your healing is going to be cooldown based.
Oh, for sure. I think as well, like, the focus on Vanguards early on in the draft for me, granted, like, I'm not at the level of these guys. Like, don't ask my rank, don't ask my main. It's Mr. Fantastic. I don't know why I'm telling you that, but
why would you say that?
I know, like, it's just the most offensive thing to say on a broadcast is like, that's the guy. But I think it is a case of, like, a lot of the Vanguards feel very robust right now. And a lot of the strategists, you can build very specific comps around them. Invisible Woman with something like a Torch. Synergize as well. Lunar Snow as well. So it's almost like taking out archetypes more than the characters themselves.
BRR PATAPIM, we're going to have Pokey playing on the Ultron here. We've seen a little bit of Ultron here in EMEA. It's not been remarkably successful.
Not too much. You do have some really good strategists alongside, though, and if Pokey can get that freedom to just be irritating, Tanuki's going to do that full stop. Enzo moving over to the Emma Frost. It's Paulie that's going to be on that Captain America. Says it's one of the better dive Vanguards to be playing. More so than Hulk, more so than the Thing, more so even than the likes of Emma Frost themselves to just take a brawl in these fights. But right now, it's just pot shots. Smashner's doing a pretty good job of building up that final judgment, but it's Tanuki that finds the first blow.
Knutson took a nice side angle up top. Managed to get 2v1 by the double flyers of both Tanuki and Pokey here. Up come the walls and down goes the cover for those flyers. Still, Tanuki has plenty of walkway to try and hide behind it in order to freely rain down fire from below. Knudsen, of course, has been able to sell for res moving on forward. Smashnez vulnerable for a second. However, seems like there's still not been a first capture coming through. Rage of Ultron instantly deployed. They want to get on top of this Punisher and remove him ASAP, but the Soul Resurgence in return is plenty of healing, of course, extra movement speed and overhealth for everybody as well. So they're feeling quite a bit of cushion to move forward. And that's going to be BRR PATAPIM rocked to begin with by Zero Tenacity.
As a reminder, BRR PATAPIM haven't dropped a map at all so far in groups. It has been clean as you like, but we haven't seen him play on Burning T'Challa at all so far in the group stages. A random choice for this first domination map, but not really something to be too worried about.
It's real. The Black Panther Tanuki, it's real. However, coming out with a speed boost here, the Soul Resurgence is so good in conjunction with the judge, the jury, and the execution of a final judgment. However, it runs out of support. BRR PATAPIM moves forward with additional cushioning given over by the Eternal Bond, and now Tanuki ready to slice on through, slicing and dicing. Vibranium marks caught out of the dice itself for Rend, stopped by the Carbon Crush. What a play by Ducky to stop Tanuki's reign of terror. And now Oasis has to roll on forward. Still Zero Tenacity are in control. A Freedom Charge is actually just taken down to the low ground. Should be an easy leap upwards here once again for the Captain America when Polly decides to once again reveal himself. But while he's down there, the rest of the team aren't getting the overhealth from that ultimate. And it's going to come down to Polly to just brawl on through and remove Ducky from play.
A lot of big ultimates dedicated to get this fight going, I suppose, but there's not really any progression being made of BRR PATAPIM at all on this point. It's taken up to 75%, despite the fact that we're seeing a lot of blue on the right-hand side of the screen as Tanuki finds onto Lugia. Finally, they're able to grab onto the point, but Zero Tenacity, they've still got some good ultimates in hand, certainly for the strategists. And really, it's just a case of a couple more clean fights, and they've got point one even.
Plenty of staying power still remaining off the back of Oasis's Soul Resurgence here, but if it can be forced out here by Pokey with the Rage of Ultron, which generates so quickly, that could prove troublesome for Zero Tenacity's retake potential. And we don't really have that many options to try and deal with Enzo and that Eye of Agamotto. Why, you can see the herding that's happening right now. Tanuki marks 3 players with Vibranium, allowing them to reset the Spirit Rend. If only they can shift on through one of those marked players, it's going to eventually come on through. Moving over onto a Mantis, that's asleep, going awry, unable to be sedated. Tanuki is still going to have a reign of terror over not just Wakanda, but Zero Tenacity as well. Lugia takes to the skies with the Meteor Ram, wants to shut down Alex. It's a perfect stop on the Eternal Bond, just like in your comp games. But now Lugia gonna have to take a long way back, unable to climb out of the hole that they have been condemned to. Final Judgment finally deployed, coming through from Smashnez for Rage of Ultron to try and shut it down. Ken barely even exists. A hypothetical Invisible Woman is slain by Smashnez, picking up 4 with the Final Judgment.
This is really impressive from Zero Tenacity. The way that they position in that fight initially too, you have that little perch of high ground. You saw Tanuki trying to dive in, and the impact of Winnie's, like Loki, being able to survive with the regeneration domain and the like. But now you've got the turret set up on the high ground. It's a pole play for BRR PATAPIM to try and go in, but Smashnez is there ready and waiting.
It's good cover play though. They can hide behind the portal, and you can't break through that as it's just an environmental moment. Oh, Tanuki down to Knudsen. Great play there from the Adam Warlock, and Enzo's fallen down as well. BRR PATAPIM, they have been truly challenged by this composition right here. And now Smashnez basically untouched. He's having an absolutely luxurious experience firing away from on high. Knudsen's getting stuck in. My Adam Warlock moving in like a Vanguard. Why not? He can heal himself, so why shouldn't he just play on through? BRR PATAPIM dropped the Imperial Institute of Science.
It's incredibly crisp from Zero Tenacity in the way that they approached that, right? This is a team that was knocked down to the losers bracket by BRR PATAPIM a couple of days ago, and it really wasn't a close series at all, it felt like. But here, it's just, you know, you have Smashnez not being able to get over onto the Human Torch. He's been superb over on that Punisher. Like 13k damage, 8 final hits, 12 and 3 total, and you've still got Knudsen being Mr. Flexible so far, showing that the impact of this triple strategist with the Karmic Revival bringing people back. Z10 were trying to find a little formula of what works, and this is probably the best that it's looked. BRR PATAPIM a little bit in free fall. Some of these ultimates just poorly timed. When fights are over, they're still trying to contest, and they're not cleaning up Z10 well enough if they take the point first.
Enzo actually gave up the Eye of Agamotto here to move over onto the Venom, and this is some signaling if ever I've seen it. They want to up the tempo. They want to go faster, wait for Zero Tenacity to move into an area where the surround can be formulated, and then instantly roll on in. Smash Nest already under a little bit of siege. You've got to worry about Ducky, though. That Carbon Crush can shut down a dive oh so quickly.
Tanuki still committed to that Black Panther. Finds Knuten in the back line. Point's about to open up, and just in time for Smash Nest, as these final judgments have been pretty much set up to perfection. That's why Tanuki wants to dive in, get these resets on, but those regeneration domains are just not letting him find any success. Now you've got some of the bigger ultimates happening. It's out of Seduction alongside the God of Mischief to copy, I think, the internal bond. Means that Zero Tenacity are just putting resources on the point. They're stomping it down, the invisible boundary, trying to cover up some of this space and allow it, but that Soul Resurgence from Oasis means that Zero Tenacity haven't let up.
Tanuki getting resets for now, has another shift. Instead, just going to use it to move over onto the health pack. Alex has fallen off the map. Might well have been a reset called there by BRR Patapim after Tanuki disengaged. Zero Tenacity going to get their first cap.
And this is where I was a little bit worried from last time. You look at the ultimates though, yeah, you've got BRR Patapim set up with some nice stuff. Enzo actually moving over towards the Venom as well. Feast of the Abyss to just maybe clamp on people at the right time, but you don't have much to damage boost it other than the Terror Kick that's going to come in from Alex on the Cloak and Dagger.
All right, Tanuki ready to start clearing. Bass Descent ready to go. Once those little crystals go away, the regeneration domain at the moment holding everything at bay. Now it's down to the Soul Bond to try and mitigate that damage, and Winnie is taking matters into their own hands by removing Tanuki from the mix. Pokey now drops down from below with so much damage. It's overwhelming, yes, but Zero Tenacity, they have so much healing. What in the world was that from Knuten? Absolutely brazen performances from the Adam Warlock. Rolls on up and uses all of their cosmic power to overwhelm BRR Patapim.
Oasis almost has another ultimate. What was it, 45 seconds ago that the Soul Resurgence came in, and now's not a bad time because these fights for BRR Patapim, there's no clean take, there's no breakpoints being hit at all when it comes to eliminating people. It's just a brawl, and for Zero Tenacity, they're happy for this to go on as long as possible because they've getting connections onto the point. It's at 75% like day.
Smash instantly taken down after using the final judgment, though. That's a little bit of a fumble there for Zero Tenacity. Still, Enzo didn't get too much off the back of the Feast of the Abyss. Yeah, Winnie's gonna fall, and this might finally be BRR Patapim getting a touch of control, but they have been tested more than they really have been previously in our group stage already.
Yeah, they're probably feeling a little bit fatigued of this so far. Not had an answer, and it's not like Zero Tenacity have decided to pull this out like right today. They've been playing this consistently over the last like week or so that we've been seeing in these official games. It's Tanuki's Black Panther that's been sort of left with a little bit of dust on it. I mean, he's fantastic, but other parts of him are struggling here. And now to hold on to the point with Zero Tenacity having so much lined up, especially that Kamet Revival on the way, Tanuki can't go down here.
Early sedation is going to get some of that. Oh my goodness, caught in a narrow corridor. Pokey gets outplayed by Knuten, and now it's the Venom who's trying to fix this one up into the invisible boundary. They're willing to fight where Ken is right now because Ducky just has such overwhelming close range damage. Well, that diamond form is active. Grabbing a sentience, the Psychic Spear is followed up by the Psionic Seduction. That's going to drag in Ken, who manages to get behind cover just in time. A quick stun, though, does mean the healing cannot be delivered. And now there's still Knuten, who's sitting here with a Karmic Revival as we head into what could be the final fight of the map. BRR Patapim, they need to get value of Tanuki's Bass Descent, and they need to get it now.
He's on the point, Polly, but he's got so much focus on him. His teammates going to start coming through, but Winey and Knuten just sending them straight back.
Oh, BRR Patapim, they've been overwhelmed. They've ran out of tricks. They've ran out of mulligans. Ken can't even get onto the point. He's leaping off it in an attempt to disengage. Zero Tenacity take the first map off of BRR Patapim in Marvel Rivals Ignite.
I mean, it's a shock, really. Like, there is always going to be that asterisk attached to these games of, like, yeah, it's kind of foreseeing if there's now a chance to drop a map. But it is more so that, like, Z10, when we saw them play up against BRR Patapim on Friday, it wasn't really any like notable moments. Maybe a point on the domination maps before, but to take it 2-0 and to take it with such an advantage of like percent actually on the board, it's a real shock. We saw a little bit of like what BRR PATAPIM's plan was when it came to focusing on stuff. The main change was just going for that first ban onto the Human Torch, but smashing it high, noticeably high. Oz of the Jalia, so we're not actually going off of this this planet, this colony, whichever you want to call it. It means that we're just moving over to a different game mode in a different part of the world, but so far the draft looking eerily similar. It's whether BRR PATAPIM want to go for the Captain America here, or whether they think they're going Magneto, or even Psylocke. Okay, that's an interesting spin.
Surely they banned the Captain America now then for Zero Tenacity. They do not want to allow... Oh, okay.
And then they go for Loki again, right?
They'll probably go for their own Loki gap. I mean, the respect that Smashnares is demanding right now to get the Human Torch first banned is kind of wild.
I think it's just that everything else around the way that Zero Tenacity are playing is just like, you can't ban out a character for Knuten, and it's not that Smashnares can only play Human Torch. It's more that like Human Torch is the center of like the Pepe Sylvia kind of graph, right? You've got all of the red lines dashing between. That's sort of how it feels, and that's what teams are trying to work out with this new system that we've only had a couple of weeks, right? So teams are naturally like, yeah, we're getting to grips with it. We're seeing where the meta naturally evolves, and the beauty of it is no game is the same.
Yeah, and that's especially the case for teams like BRR PATAPIM that came through the Open Ignite qualifiers, which had a very different vibe or very different ban system compared to what we're using in Ignite officials. They were still using the 3 ban 2 protect, and the bans were universal rather than one-sided, as we see here. It's going to be a protection for the Adam Warlock of Knuten.
And I think it's certainly for just defending elements of this map. Zero Tenacity and other teams as well have really been employing Virtus Pro especially been doing this a lot. It's so hard to get a payload moving when you just have Zero Tenacity just sticking bodies on and progressing, right? And then you manage to eliminate everybody, Camera Revival, everybody's back, and you can get stuff like the Human Torch is still available here for BRR PATAPIM, and just even Storm, right? You just Omega Hurricane right on top of the Camera Revival. They're going straight back to spawn as soon as they come back. So it's, I guess, BRR PATAPIM trying to get ahead of the curve and making sure that Knuten doesn't get as much free reign as he did last time. Emma Frost going to be that final ban. So yet again, we're seeing BRR PATAPIM not have those main 2 Vanguards and Captain America taken out. Puts a bit more pressure onto Polly and Enzo.
Yeah, Polly is a fantastic group player, so I imagine that would be the given pivot. But they could also play Tanuki on the Namor with a Hulk from Enzo. Enzo is a very experienced Hulk player. Enzo would actually be who I'd characterize as both a Venom and Hulk player on the side of BRR PATAPIM. But what I'm interested in here is Alex on the Lunar Snow. In the times long past, when Lunar Loki was just the backline du jour of every single competitive Marvel Rivals game, Alex was a absolutely top tier Lunar.
I mean, I think overall that duo of Alex and Ken was the one to be watching, it felt like. Yeah, Saipe and Dredro definitely are those to keep sort of leading the line, I suppose, of what strategists can do. But here it's more of a case of like this combo's been strong. It's like both Ken and Alex mostly taken on to not only their second preferred strategist, but their third or even fourth. That seems to be the main thing that's been focused on in drafts. Today it's a little bit more on the Vanguards.
3, 2,
We've actually got Lugia playing the Captain America in their own right as well. Zero Tenacity, we actually had a little bit of an evolution already throughout their Ignite run where they opened up as like some triple duelist merchants. They had Lugia playing the Wolverine quite often.
It's Tanuki in the sky. When you do have the Venom and Hulk, it means that so much focus has to go onto them. Tanuki might have a bit more free reign in the sky, and when you got Oki over on the Psylocke, it's really about coordination for BRR PATAPIM and mainly getting out these regeneration domains off the hands of Winey.
Yeah. Having to try and force it out of Winnie already, and going deep into the backline. There it is. Regeneration domains have been used, but it's not an ideal trade to lose Polly for all of that. Falls down at the hands of these defenders, but Tanuki on the off angle, managing to avoid most of Knuten's shots for now, and so will maintain their presence on the off angle, ready to clash, baby. Get the additional over health as well, just give some additional staying power to Knuten. Catches Enzo on the end of a leap. That should go down into a baby banner mode, and this could be really troublesome for BRR BRR PATAPIM here, unless Pokey can really summon some damage over onto Ducky. Disengagement not on the cards. Luigi is going to try and keep this one punished here. You need to grab Pokey on the way out, and indeed, a well-placed Vibranium Energy Sword will do just that.
It feels so anti-dive with what Zero Tenacity's playing, you know, like Knuten over now on the Bucky. You've still got, I think Punisher was still available in the draft. I don't know if that was banned out. I can't remember off the top of my head. I think it was open.
It was banned from Zero Tenacity.
Yeah, but not against him.
Yes.
So it does feel like it's very, like, you know, you're expecting your players like Polly and Enzo to be very dive-centric, so he's read into this nicely, and it's such a hard bunkered-up position to take for BRR BRR PATAPIM. In full health would be a bit of a disaster, but not unlikely.
Oh, that is a big Terror Cape. Great setup there by Ken. Seems like conversion not quite there, though. Tanuki thought they had the angle to try and find the finish, but Polly has once again paid the price far too early. The rest of BRR BRR PATAPIM just unable to join Polly on these engagements.
You've got almost all 6 ultimates available for the defense here, and really we've not seen BRR BRR PATAPIM sit on the point. Unless it was that first fight. They're also building up ultimate, so like this is going to be a battle of the ages.
Oh, things are going to get real fast here. Opening up with a supernova straight away from Tanuki, just laying down fire cyclones everywhere. All and sundry. Smashnet is forced to move away from the incoming damage. And the Eternal Bond from Oasis is instantly overwhelmed. The damage is so strong. A new copy comes on through. The God of Mischief coming through from Winnie. And that's going to be yet another Fate of Both Worlds, giving over 250 HPS to all who want to stand within. But Polly still has something in their back pocket here. A Face of the Abyss to try and chomp through Zero Tenacity and turn them into little flavor pellets. Winnie forced to disengage once more, running from the Venom. Not ideal. That's going to be yet another ultimate coming on through. It's Pokey, but the Dancer of Butterflies only onto one target, and that means Ducky is catching all of the DPS that comes on through. Zero Tenacity are just, they're playing around the peripheries, but they don't have resurrections, and they don't really have the numbers.
It's a battle of attrition, and BRR BRR PATAPIM might be winning. The problem is that, yet again, much like the first map, it's not super clean, so there is a chance of stalling out for Zero Tenacity, even just getting a little bit more time on the board, because there's only 30 seconds here. Polly going in very deep, might now have to turn around to try and help clear out some of this space, but he does catch Winnie as he was switching.
Was Winnie doing a little bit of a fake out there? Maybe something a little bit cheeky. Maybe just getting closer to the enemy team to reset as fast as possible. But PATAPIM, like I said, they took their time with it. It was a bit messy.
I think they didn't even use the 2 Vanguard ultimates that they have either, so Feast of the Abyss and Hulk Smash still good for Polly and Enzo respectively. And the Strategist ultimates, not too far off either. Zero Tenacity having to use a lot. They have the Dance of the Butterflies, but Smashness is the one that's been dove on.
Oh, already forcing out the regeneration domain. Great stuff there, but the Worldbreaker Hulk is feeling very lonely here. Terror, Cape, Smashnez trying to convert onto Alex. Only one player remains within the Dance of the Butterflies. Everyone else wasn't willing to share out the damage and help out Luna Snow when their strategist demanded it. And now with only a single strategist remaining, Ken knows that it's time to do or to fall when it comes to this. Oh, finding Smashnez already and hitting the Terror Cape onto Knuten. What a play from Ken off the back of the ultimate.
We've had a lot of focus. The ultimate. Major one. And it's a major fight that Zero Tenacity have available to them here. Gonna start with a Psionic Seduction, seeing if they could stop things from coming out for BRR BRR PATAPIM, but the Fate of Both Worlds is going to be the first thing that matches. Eternal Bond now cutting through an aggressive line to make this whole hallway a bit of a precipice to be fighting, and Knuten's getting the resets with the Kraken's impact. Means BRR BRR PATAPIM thrown off the point for the first time since they've taken it.
Like a time long past, an esports finale is decided by a Kraken impact. Zero Tenacity standing strong, even in the face of a huge investment of Alex's Fate of Both Worlds.
You do have a lot building up. Ollie, moving over to the Strange Archie now. A good amount of time. Not really going to be using a portal play now. Maybe just feeling that there's some space that an Eye of Agamotto can cut through and just be a little extra CC. Enzo still staying on the Hulk, trying to dive in, and actually does get the exile over onto Knudsen, but he's got Winnie to just there heal and help him get out the fight.
Oh, Knudsen, just for now, avoiding Enzo's attentions. Does not want to get isolated into a 1 versus 1. Smash is actually moving around the outside with Lugiago at the moment. Polly has to float above it all using the Cloak of Levitation. With these regeneration crystals already used, that's going to mean that Pokey has an option to try and get some real value out of their ultimate. First of all, though, it's Tanuki softening everyone up. Out comes the Eternal Bond to answer the incoming damage from a Fire Cyclone. So a Supernova is laying down directly on top of the Eternal Bond. The Cloak and Dagger deeply in trouble. Knudsen unable to survive all of the incoming damage, and the focus fire is strong from BRR BRR PATAPIM off the back of the stun. I don't know if Zero Tenacity have the staying power here. Lugiago is going to do their best with his smash. Oh, the dance of the butterflies. The dance beat was cancelled. They raised the rent on the rec center.
Oh, it was a very clean fight from BRR BRR PATAPIM. They're now starting to warm up to the occasion. Maybe a bit rusty in that first map and want to try and get things going. And you saw a great example of why Human Torch is still such a prominent duelist character to be running, of just making the whole battlefield a nightmare, forcing out some of those big strategist ultimates from Z10. They already have another Eternal Bond to work with, but you have to be looking at Pokey, Psylocke, Dance of the Butterflies, good to go.
Feels like these Eternal Bonds are just being built so quickly from these efficient Cloak and Dagger players. Already Eternal Bond coming through from Oasis is going to keep Ducky nicely healed up for now. Smashnez decides to move away from a World Breaker Hulk. Enzo is a touch too dangerous for a small Psylocke, but Enzo overwhelmed by everybody's collective DPS here. A small banner overwhelmed. Can they get a reset? They'll have to crack an impact in just the final second. It's Polly who is slain, vanquished even by the combined efforts of Zero Tenacity. Clash me, yells Knudsen as Lugiago comes in for a high five.
Down to 30 seconds.
Reset required. I don't think the portal has been used at any point from Polly here. And for ultimates, you're definitely looking at the God of Mischief being available. Smashnez on the precipice of just having a Dance to Butterflies, but he gets taken out early again.
Oh, the information just wasn't there for Smashnez. Polly and Pokey. Or Enzo and Pokey on the off angle, going to try and do it again, looking for those regeneration domains here from Maloki. Once they're gone, Pokey can really start making something happen with the Dance of the Butterflies. Has managed to find Knudsen already. Winnie's already fallen on down. Oasis overwhelmed, and Ducky going to be the same. There's no one left to try and stop this cart after Lugia is taken down, so it's going to be one last fight here as Zerison has to get that last wave of spawns.
Eye of Agamotto, Eternal Bond, but the Hulk coming back now in this fight. And this is where, because BRR BRR PATAPIM have played together for quite some time as a core, they do have a lot of advantages in these chaotic fights. You don't necessarily have a strategy, it's just all coordination and comms.
Complicating the commute here for the side of Zero Tenacity. Winnie ready to roll on through with their own Eternal Bond. Managed to clear the portals as they come through as well. Smashnez has used the Dancer of Butterflies, but there's good positioning from BRR BRR PATAPIM. They share out the damage amongst themselves. They democratize the Shinobi Blade, refusing to be taken down as only victims of the Shinobi herself. Lugiago moves on forward, potentially stunned there by the Eye of Agamotto. Could not pivot the shield in time to stop Polly from tearing Soul from Sundry, but finding Pokey on the other side nonetheless. Ducky overwhelmed, yes, but running low on members here are BRR BRR PATAPIM, and Zero Tenacity is so close to their spawn, even with the extended spawn times of the overtime itself. Smashnez comes in to tag in on the objective, keep it contested for a moment. The mission area could be overwhelmed, but Lugia's got all the healing they need and a touch more now as well, as guess what, the Eternal Bond has turned up when everyone was most desperate for it. Knudsen flying low to make sure they're within the area of effect, and Alex is going to be faced with the fate of both worlds. Polly's returned in an emergency on the Spider-Man of all things, but caught and brainwashed by the Sonic seduction. It could prove brutal for Peter Parker. We know he's had his women troubles in the past. Ducky is the last to fall, and finally BRR BRR PATAPIM will cap.
You just get it right at the end. Laboured attacking side so far. They struggled on that first point, and the second, it was a bit of a coming and going, forced out a lot more time that they just have to go for the overtime push in the end. I do think Polly switching over to the Doctor Strange seemed to just give them a little bit more space, a bit more of a damage mitigation with a bit more of a barrier instead of trying to go for this giga dive competition with the two Vanguards running in with a comp. But you got to say that we've seen quite a lot of Halls of Djalia not only been finished, but finished with good time on the board. So for Zero Tenacity, now that they're going onto their attacking side, they're not going to be feeling too worried at the fact that BRR PATAPIM finished him out. But it really does depend on how these first fights go. And there's been a lot of really nice ideas from Z10 when it comes to like portal turret plays with the Punisher. I don't know if that's necessarily what we're going to be seeing here, but
Get ready.
Smashdare's moving over to the Namor was something that we did see a little bit yesterday over on Yggdrasil's Path.
I personally like how Insomnia play the Hulk, Namor, Wolverine trio, getting those constant fastball specials to try and shut down enemy vanguards. And when you're going up against a Hulk Doctor Strange combo, I think there's a lot of value to be had from the Wolverine, but you're kind of hamstrung into your triple strategist setup when you want to play the Adam Warlock.
All you need to do is capture the mission area.
Yeah, and Lugia has been very open to sort of pulling out the Wolverine a little bit too. But he has a job to do, and it doesn't feel like he wants to really pull away from that too much at all. So the Adam Warlock coming out again for Knuten really helped a lot with keeping these fights slow, but it's actually going to be the attacking side. Keep the rotations in and out. And it's more just the prodding and the poking, especially from Pokey, that's just up on this high ground.
Yeah, prodding and poking, however, it's going to allow for Ducky to start building up charge on their psionic beam. And when you start building up that charge, that's when Polly's in danger. The front line can just evaporate in the midst of all of this. Still Tanuki. Oh, the Exile's kind of perfect, though. Lugia actually earning the go title right there. Enzo's down as well. BRR PATAPIM, their Vanguard line, just disintegrated. Knuten was playing a little bit of a silly location. It's going to get an even more silly self-resurrection off the back of that cocooned revival. And it seems like the rest of the team were unwilling to try and stand up to Knuten's very intimidating presence.
He portaled, so that's going to be off.
Oh, yeah.
A little bit wrong, a little bit iffy. It's a full best of 5 of BRR PATAPIM to play, so even if they do lose this map, we still have at least one more to go. But peculiar sort of mix of errors. You do have that team up now as well with Namor and Hulk. Chill and Charisma no longer on the table at all to be used, and it's not quite as oppressive, I suppose, but Lugia just been very in the face of BRR PATAPIM, who've had to reset, haven't really had the chance to build up any ultimates yet.
Yeah, no room to breathe thus far. Knuten once again in the silly angle. I imagine does not have a cover roll for now. Multiple players going to be stunned on out. That's Alex and Pokey. And while Alex is stunned, that's when Enzo is going to take the most damage. Immune to CC. The absolute zero goes awry. It's a Terror Cape in the back. Alex gets seduced and summarily destroyed thereafter. Vanquished by the beauty of Emma Frost. And oh my goodness, Zero Tenacity, they are doing an absolute speed run.
It almost feels like BRR PATAPIM are in free fall. They need to recollect themselves a little bit because this is just odd. I think everybody's watching this and going like, what is going on with this team? Enzo goes into the fight, is instantly reset. He has the Strangling Prison, I think, to go with on the group. And there's just not really been any clean fights, and this objective is still moving along without any contest from BRR PATAPIM right at the end.
5 ultimates here for BRR PATAPIM. They've got to unpoop the bed. That's the long and the short of it. It's not elegant. It's not metaphorical. It's real. Enzo has the Strangling Prison to try and work with. Lugia in the back has already forced out the ultimate from the Lunar Snow. Things are getting real complicated real fast, and the Strangling Prison allows him to take out Smashnares. In comes the Resurrection, the Karmic Revival coming through from Knuten. Unbreakable Guard onto so many, and there are 4 players here to just share out Pokey's damage from the Flight of the Butterflies. The dance itself was mostly denied. A perfect Thorn Lash Wall from Enzo will remove Ducky's disengagement options, and BRR PATAPIM have spent their entire bank for a modicum of stability.
And there's 4 ultimates for Zero Tenacity to sit with, as well as 4 minutes, just under 5, to sit on the clock. There's nothing for BRR PATAPIM time-wise in the bank. They'll get an extra minute, but that's just more time for Zero Tenacity to potentially work with. So it's really a case of just holding things back now. Enzo over on this group, trying to block off with as many walls as possible. Smashnares having a Horn of Proteus, gonna throw it in. The CC, it's gonna force out that. Alex goes very low. If it wasn't for the Eternal Bond from Ken, he'd be out.
Polly stunned out of their own ultimate here. minimizing the strike back options for BRR Patapim. Ducky also has for Sonic Seduction, and multiple players are going to be in the LOS. Look at this disengagement. 4 players mind control, make it 5. It's so clean. Unbelievable beauty. A Marilyn Monroe cosplay leaves BRR Patapim gasping.
Z10 punishing the fact that BRR Patapim don't put any stock into Emma Frost. There's no Magneto to mitigate a lot of that silent seduction. You don't even have the Emma Frost on the other side to do the same sort of thing. And it really does feel like they're getting so much value out of Ducky. Pokey's given maybe BRR Patapim a chance to try and contest this, but there's still 3.5 minutes to hold it right at the end of the map.
Oh, Lugi's getting a bit frisky here. Down to only 20 HP. He's going to lose the hold form, go back down into Banner, but the rest of the team, they just made the most of a space that was given. They said, Lugia, go smash. You may have one of the best teams in Europe, but we have a Lugia on Hulk, and all of that attention was demanded. We're going to extra rounds, but Zero Tenacity have an entirely different tier of time bank.
You get to look at what's been saved and banned out so far as well. Maybe BRR Patapim are looking at this going, we have 3 of the strongest Vanguards all taken out currently. And then Loki's just been the one that's pulled away. You saved the Psylocke for Pokey. And it's not that it's not found complete value. It's just Zero Tenacity's ability to keep snowballing off the back of Ducky finding the first pick or Smash Nez. And if you do find eliminations, you can't even say it's been the Adam Warlock just with big Karmic revivals. It frankly has been the Zero Tenacity are just not dying.
Knudsen has done 22.2k damage so far. I mean, I know it hasn't been Adam Warlock the entire time, but has it been Adam Warlock the entire time? Maybe it has been. No, I think we were 222. They were playing Winter Soldier for a while.
Yeah.
He's getting some real value out of this Adam here. The accuracy is certainly reflecting that.
I think Oasis has found a lot of value over with Mantis too. Commonly high assists, but that extra little bit of damage boost from Inspire. You put that on the right person at the right time, whether it's the Horn of Proteus, whether it's, you know, the right clicks coming out of Knudsen. These BRR Patapim players are going down fast and frequent, and here's what it does. Cute little plays, but this time on the side of BRR Patapim, Zero Tenacity know better. They love making those plays themselves. Avoided it.
Okay, they're looking for a wombo here as well. They have the Jeff Nado. Building slowly. Tanuki's going to be taking the role of Jeff right here. You noted in our pre-show that Tanuki was a little bit of a Jeff merchant in times long gone by. Zero Tenacity have been forced to give away this high ground now, and that's a very safe area for Tanuki to operate from in this case and start cleaving through. You can see that Oasis just continuously taking all of this damage. Now it's Lugia's turn to roll on up. Knudsen on the other side should be chased on down. We'll be able to self-resurrect with a Karmic Revival.
Ashnez has traded over onto Enzo. In fact, one of the squids was the one that picked it. Yeah, Knudsen back in the fight. Any progression for BRR Patapim is going to be the key element. You can't leave it on 0%. You can't feel like you just have 0 options to work with. But Zero Tenacity bringing out everything. Soul Resurgence, the Carbon Crush is clean onto Alex. The perfect target as just the Eternal Bond was either used or interrupted right in the brink. And Smash Nez, Lugia, just everybody's being cleared up on BRR Patapim. They haven't got a cent leg day.
It's absolutely perfect, as you said. If you want one target with your Carbon Crush, grabbing the Cloak and Dagger out of the AoE of the Eternal Bond and destroying them to take that ultimate away when the rest of BRR Patapim had rolled into that zone, assuming that they'd be near invincible. Unbelievable from Ducky. You can't allow Ducky to keep having Emma for free. You just can't.
Seems that Zero Tenacity, even though this doesn't look entirely different from what they've been playing before, taking a lot of life lessons from the loss that they had against BRR Patapim on Friday. And granted, Zero Tenacity played yesterday too. They had a replay up against All Business for their chance to bounce back here. So it's not even a sense of they've had a couple of days off to rest. No, that was BRR Patapim. They're the ones that have been playing the least in these games because they've just been winning out these maps so cleanly. Yeah.
30 seconds before you
Yeah, they're not been getting effective practice out of their tournament matches. That much is for sure. All the practice has been coming in scrim form still.
I never called myself
This is drawable, I believe. I don't think that BRR Patapim got past a tick of progress. They would have to hold first point and first tick for 4 minutes and 21 seconds.
Has that ever happened before?
Not at this stage of a game. It's happened in very mismatched first point defenses when, you know, when the scoreline's 0-0.
You got the mental side of it as their tenacity. The momentum is in their favor. The wind is in their sails, and they are blowing right past BRR PATAPIM that have just tried to anchor up onto the point with as many bodies as possible. No high ground plays, just ready to fight and scrap it out for that 33%.
Here we are, same playbook again. Charge Ducky up to the full Psionic Beam. And then overwhelm Polly. That shield won't last forever, going in for the Carbon Crush. It's the exact same play, and it's the exact same fall. The Sorcerer Supreme overwhelmed by Diamond Majesty. And BRR PATAPIM are nowhere near the point. They might have just called this one and said, okay, go next, lads. This one might be cooked.
It's so precarious, right? Because it's the first time that we see BRR PATAPIM be able to choose the map that they want to play, and then they lose it that hard almost. It was some bright moments, but realistically, Ducky being able to just have free reign on the Emma Frost, because it's something that BRR PATAPIM just don't really care about. Like statistically, they haven't really given much thought into banning or picking Emma Frost themselves. And they've been really keen on making sure that Smash This doesn't get the Human Torch, but we've seen him move over to the Punisher on the first map, which looks great. And here the Namor, it looked fantastic. It almost feels like it's just biting BRR PATAPIM in the backside to just keep going for this strategy of taking out the Human Torch first.
Seeding on the line here in our grand finals of the group. Maybe you could make an argument if you wanted to hit your copium. BRR PATAPIM could be saving strats. But I do think that it's probably worth at least trying to hamstring Ducky a bit here. The lack of respect for the Ducky Emma has been a considerable issue for BRR PATAPIM this series.
I think Ducky's been very keen on trying to get Magneto as often as possible. I might be mixing him up with another Vanguard on another team, but I think it's been the case of like the win rate when Ducky's had Magneto has been considerably higher than it has been otherwise. But like I said, I might be crossing my wires a little bit, but there's one thing to definitely understand here, to be perfectly clear. Zero Tenacity are doing some significant damage to BRR PATAPIM, who at the very least are going to take a lot of lessons from this. It isn't completely done and dusted yet, with a full convoy map to come leg day, and it's a full best of 5 too. So the reverse sweeps there, and BRR PATAPIM, because they haven't been playing a lot in these like games so far, because it's been swift 2-0s and just not been on broadcast a lot, at least it's reps before we get into playoffs next week. And if something's not working with their vision, their identity of how they want to play on these maps, now's the perfect time to realize it's not working and to fix it.
Yeah, you know what? That's actually very right. My cope for VP having lost 2-0 to Rad the last few weeks has been like, it's excellent that VP found out the main way that they are getting kind of done over before the loss really would have impacted them that much, you know, to give time to try and practice a way to reflect how you want to deal with these certain strategies.
Immediately a change for BRR PATAPIM, opting to not first ban out the Human Torch this time, and really just resort to the standard drafts. And actually, yeah, if you can't beat them, join them.
Yeah. Or in Emma Frost's case, if you can't beat them, seduce them. Okay, maybe a pro gamer move here to try and steal away the Loki. But this will give the extra option over to BRR PATAPIM to ban away the Emma in their own right. However, if they want to try and remove Lunar Snow as well, which is likely to be the ban du jour, it is going to allow for a little bit more freedom for Zero Tenacity's duelist picks.
I'm on Yggdrasil's path as well, so might see a little bit more of the Knuten Hawkeye. So Lunar Snow might have a bit more stock on it, so that's why BRR PATAPIM have taken it out, because we are playing on the old patch. The patch that came out on Thursday, Friday for us normal plebeians that play the game. These guys will get it in playoffs. I believe we're still on the old patch, so that old version of that combo, still strong. Moon Knight still having 25 less HP. No, not going to see that too much. Maybe if I'm going to do a tad. But what's going to be the focus on saving? Because the Loki I like. The Adam Warlock I think that's going to be key, because whatever front line that you have with your vanguards, you're missing the major two. So not only is it good to just have the Adam Warlock for Knudsen, that's a smart move as well, to really cut off some of those options for the triple strategist comps.
I mean, it is going to make for a quite awkward backline, potentially. Well, this may allow for Knudsen to flex onto a second duelist, and maybe we see something like a Loki Cloak and Dagger, a Cloaky backline, potentially, if you're willing to go with me on that train.
Of course.
Captain America, going to be protected. Classic here for Polly is, of course, not going to have the patented Pokey duo in the back, and just getting rid of Tanuki's option to go to the sky. This is going to be that Smashnez is somewhat unmatched in the sky. I imagine we're going to see Smashnez bring us up. Maybe we see the Invisible Woman as well here to try and give that additional protection over.
I mean, that's definitely a good option. I think for a lot of them, yeah. It's really been a case, I think, of just looking at the front line. Like, Ducky not being on the Emma Frost, not being on the Magneto, might be in a more uncomfortable position. Lugia is just... I keep saying Lugia. Lugia. But his whole... certainly jumping on the first point was fantastic on Halls of Jalia. And that's one thing that we did see quite a lot from Z10 yesterday, of just their attacking sides were superb. Of just keeping things moving at speed. The coordination to find the right target and jump on them all in a coordinated manner and just take them out. It really left nothing on the board for All Business yesterday to deal with, right? And so BRR PATAPIM, they are on the back foot. They're 2-0 down in this best-of-5 series. Now forced to make some changes with what they want to play, with BRR PATAPIM attacking first.
I mean, to expand on your point there, it's definitely important to not only be able to fight plan well, but also learn to fight plan expediently. And that's something that Zero Tenacity are very good at, just very quickly forming their plans and executing on them without too much deliberation. That kind of leads me to believe that they have excellent in-game leadership.
Smashnez gets that torch. It was a real focus of BRR PATAPIM to take him off the table. Now has free run of the skies, and Paulie also being able to get backwards that Captain America. It's basically what these players really want to be on. Tanuki having to switch over, finds the hunt down onto Knudsen, but he's going to be brought back. It's Winnie that catches onto Enzo, that's now over on Emma Frost.
Yeah, Enzo now going to be the one that's able to deploy the Carbon Crush, and that does mean that Ducky is going to be in significant danger, as we outlined on Hall of Jalia. Lugia dragged into the midst of BRR PATAPIM, running low on shield HP, but it's okay because Ducky's just going to cover the disengagement for now. And when he's got so much healing prowess in the back with all of the clones arrayed, the army's good to go. Oasis also has the Eternal Bond in the back pocket, should it be necessary. Pokey's almost got the Kraken Impact, ready to descend upon everybody, and it's going to be very easy to try and get through those Loki clones without the regeneration domain available.
That Terror Cape did hit a lot of people before that Eternal Bond came through. I think that was from Winnie, actually. Would have got a Mischief copy. So having things switch around. 3 people stunned by the Eye of Agamotto. And Z10, it sets up Smashnez perfectly with a Supernova to just whittle these players down. And yet again, we're seeing that like Fate of Both Worlds. Precariously timed. It's a big strategist ultimate that's not going to be available for this next push.
Yeah, that's not going to be on the cards. Alex wishing that it was. Still, Tanuki with the Galactic Legend has so much to contend with here, both for Soul Bond and the Eternal Bond are going to be potential shutdowns for that, and that's going to be the Eternal Bond already popped here by Oasis, driving the remainder of the team forward. Zero Tenacity rolling into the midst of BRR PATAPIM. Pokey potentially overwhelmed, rolling in here with a shotgun. It's so difficult for Newton to survive. I don't know if they've got a self-resurrection. It seems like they do not have their passive, and so Knudsen's ult is essentially wasted. Great heads-up play there from Pokey to identify the location that the Adam Warlock was just hiding away in.
Tanuki's really made the style hard work here. There's no combination, there's no team up really at play. You don't have that team up with the Adam Warlock, Mantis, the like, etc. but it is such a good, like, not only dive tool, but anti-dive tool. As soon as his teammates get jumped on, he can really just get into their faces. He's got the iframes as well to dodge out some of these big parts of CC. And now the Galactic Legend soaring into the skies. He has some support coming in as well, just onto the backline. I think it's Polly that's actually diving in, forcing out at least that God of Mischief, and then the Eternal Bond straight afterwards. There's no chance for Winnie to sort of sit back and wait, and Smashionez find at least a pick onto Alex on the other side.
Oh, Terror Close coming in from both directions. More damage taken by BRR Patapim, and you better believe they're going to be charred body and soul by the Supernova, desperately trying to remove the Cloak and Dagger from the other side, but Ken stands firm and stands strong, embodied by both light and dark forces together. Zero Tenacity will be able to claim control of this corner, but they're still going to remain under siege.
Ivagamot for Ducky. Got a little bit of high ground to play with, but he's got the full focus of his team on him currently, even building up a lot of that dark matter to just go for the Maelstrom. Final Judgment. This is a really nice play for BRR Patapim. They put so much damage into Polly's shield, he has to hold back, and that's when the Final Judgment's going to come out. You can see just how much damage it's doing, but the cooldown's required from Cloak and Dagger to keep people surviving.
The disengagement super strong. Ducky already forcing out the fate of both worlds here. Only Pokey gets stunned out really by the Eye of Agamotto, but the damage is laid up even through the fate of both worlds. Solid Seduction starts to seduce Smashionez, but being able to just hightail it out of there just in time. Those who do get caught are quickly cleaned up by the other members of BRR Patapim, managing to find the periphery. Here we go again. In comes the resurrection from Knutson, having double snaps of the fingers to bring everyone back to full HP. And Lugiago doesn't take too much time to get resurrected in their own right. The regeneration domain turns Tanuki's damage into healing in the midst of all this. Knutson, you can rest now, my son. Your job is done, even while laid to rest by Tanuki. Pokey overwhelmed by the Supernova. The temperature's getting too hot here for BRR Patapim, as Smashionez just takes cover amongst their own fire cyclones. And that was down to Tanuki with raw mechanics alone to try and make it work. A quick hit of the E. The Blaster Barrage starts to rack through the health bars of Zero Tenacity's defense.
How is he still going? How is he still alive? He's just dipping and diving, and even with a full focus from Lugia, he's still able to go for this offensive fight, but it's more of the same. BRR Patapim, these fights going on forever. Knutson just resetting, doesn't have the counter revival for the time being, and anytime there's a real consistent dive onto BRR Patapim, that regeneration domain from Winnie has just kept people going. He almost has another God of Mischief, and these have come out every minute or so.
Oh, one player gets stunned. It's Ken in this case, and the finish is there. However, the Final Judgment is doing so much damage, and while they are seduced, it's easy headshots, easy cleanup. Frankie Castle's cleaning up the streets of Franklin. The guns are doing their work. Momentarily exiled, yes, by the Gamma, but the damage has already been done to the Zero Tenacity defense. These Vanguards stand alone without a healer to their back, and Zero Tenacity lose control of B. We're heading to the final bit of Yggdrasil Path.
Even when it was clear that that fight was won for BRR Patapim, 15-20 seconds was still bought from Zero Tenacity. They're just so good at being absolute thorns in the sides and just have to clear them up every time you want to keep pushing this payload along. So now it's just less than 2 minutes on this final part of the objective. And BRR Patapim doing a good job on pushing, but it's the same with Halls of Jajalia. You can finish the map, but Zero Tenacity might be able to do it with time in the bank in comparison next time.
The Horn of Proteus, ready to summon forth Giganto. Putting it on top of the Punisher could be everything. It's a full miss, though. Everyone just managed to get out of space, and Knutson on the other side was traded out by Enzo. Kicked into the wall after being carbon crushed. Ducky looking for something a little bit special here, but doesn't find anything. Everyone on BRR Patapim dodged away. They read Ducky like a book. They've seen these bathtub games before.
Tanuki is just constantly in and out of these engagements, not really on these kind of like melee or flying characters that just jump in like a Black Panther, but it's just doing so much work. The Idol Aura makes that he's able to just keep pressing, keep pushing up. And he does have that Galactic Legend, which is going to be good at maybe forcing out this Eternal Bond. Knutson, over on that Final Judgment, has it available, is going to try and do it into the sky. It means that the bullets are more focused on Tanuki. He's up in the air, he's using cover. It means that there's not as much focus onto BRR Patapim, but regardless, we're still seeing a lot of these big ultimates dedicated and psionic seduction from Enzo. There's always been a follow-up, and that's the perfect way for Pokey to take the end of this map, potentially, if Zero Tenacity don't give it up.
Big credit there to Polly as well. Body blocking a huge amount of damage coming out from Knuten during that final judgment to ensure that Pokey remained safe. When we interviewed Enzo at the beginning of Ignite EMEA, they said, okay, we rebuilt our roster because we wanted 2 players, a duo that took this game as seriously as we did. And Polly and Pokey fit the bill. True grinders who had the talent and the perseverance to turn that talent into results. And Polly and Pokey continue to deliver.
I think Polly was saying that they're cousins yesterday, but I was too afraid to ask if he was being like serious or whether, because it's like if he said like he's my brother, you'd be like, okay, yeah, you sort of mean mate, but cousins just like a little bit too specific, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, they're both Norwegian as far as I'm aware. They were part of the Royal Beamers roster that did quite well in MRC.
Polly actually hasn't died at all either, 15-0.
Very evasive.
30 seconds.
I mean, that's
before
why
you
they put
attack.
so much
Get
focus on it, right? Like, it seems to be their main choice. And Polly was saying in the interview, it's just the best dive Vanguard to be going for right now. And his ultimate, when there's so much focus on the draft going on to strategists and taking out the Lunar Snows, the Lokis and stuff, Polly having the Freedom Charge, it's another support ultimate, essentially. Something to rely on in these dicey moments. But you also have to say, Enzo moving over towards playing the Emma Frost, pretty much like BRR PATAPIM have played him every single game, like a glove.
Yeah, turns out that hero's pretty good. Pretty good. And Tanuki actually taking up the pokey role of being that dive assistant to Polly as well has actually been paying some real dividends here for BRR PATAPIM. Smash Nest is already down, tracked by Pokey in the air. There's a reason that Punisher has really come to a forefront. Knuten already under siege. Pokey getting a touch frisky with the shotgun. Adjudication is leveled against Zero Tenacity.
Knuten on the Iron Man, we have seen this before. I've seen some really nice plays, but it really is a case of what team-ups are available for Zero Tenacity to work with. You've got Smash Nez moving over, gives Ultron a little bit more kit to work with for both damage and healing. But it's not really worked out all that well. In fact, that team-up is going to be very quickly put to bed. Smash Nez wanting to move over towards the Namor, but Knuten moving over to the Hawkeye, not likely because they don't have that Lunar Snow to work alongside.
For now, just, you know, speculative repulsor blast. Tanuki's just going to make sure that Knuten can't stay here exactly for free. And already a Light Force Curtain having to be used by Zero Tenacity means a major resource has been expended.
It's also not a bad map historically. I think the C10, 2 wins on it, never had to pick it. It's always been the choice of somebody else. And they've made it work and had different looks the whole time. We do have that Pulse Blast to work with, but there's a couple of targets, certainly Tanuki, that's like, you have to put it in the right position. Now you've got the Fate of Both Worlds used on top, and the point blank blast, not really able to catch anybody, but Pokey sends it back to the spawn and a reset required.
Straight into the Dark Force dimension, saving both the Final Judgment and the Lunar Snow Ultimate. Fate of Both Worlds. Ken was so heads up. They read
froze him
Knuten like a book.
It's okay. Admit it. You need me.
I like that we got like Pokey's perspective of that. Like he's just, all right, guys, we've stole them. Now this is just mean.
I will watch from afar.
Yeah, I was not involved. I was not there. Zero Tenacity at least having some big ultimates to work with for a big clean fight. But getting Pokey off of this position with a turret is going to be a hard one. And look how many players as well in the top of your screen, almost anti-flanking, protecting these positions. BRR PATAPIM, knowing that Lugia was maybe going to try and go around to catch the backline, is met by Tanuki.
Yeah, Smash overwhelmed. Tanuki and Polly, they were met by Lugia, but only one of them had to fight the Hulk, and so Tanuki took the path less traveled and found the Creamy. The easily dissected innards of Zero Tenacity. Now it's going to be winning, moving on forward, likely with the Eternal Bond, if I had to guess here. Ducky looking to get a little bit more out of the eye. Can it be cancelled? Oh, they're stunned right on of Proteus. Oh, they just summon up a meal for Giganto to just chew on through and uses his Baleen to strain the wheat from the chaff. BRR PATAPIM only have Polly remaining, and while the Freedom Charge does make him a tough customer, he can't stand up to the combined might of all of Z10.
Seen a lot more of these combos in other regions, I think, as well, of just CC's big stuns onto the strategist backline, and then a Horn of Proteus. Just throw a whale at them next time you need to try and get onto the backline. That seems to work out quite well. With Zero Tenacity with 25 seconds left, trying to go for this engagement. Knuten trying with this portal that's contested still, at the very least, from BRR BRR Patapim. Dedicate as much as they can. Eternal Bond is going to come through, and the bodies are there for BRR BRR Patapim. Like they could stop it right here.
Oh, just about getting out with a sliver of HP. Knuten quickly healed on up. Ken exiled on the way out, which means they cannot cross heal with Alex to try and sustain still. Alex doesn't need no help. Maybe you need a little bit more than that. Even with the fate of both worlds, the overwhelming damage of Voloki just tears through BRR BRR Patapim, combined with a beautiful source of the Punisher turret.
Zero Tenacity having to finish out the map, able to at least get to point B on this map. Smashnez knowing that if they get stuck here at all, it could be curtains if they're not careful. So an aggressive position to be holding from. Not going to overextend, but just hiding on this corner. Does he get spotted? No, Tanuki, but he's going to get shot in the back of the head by Smashnez and also his squid. Oh. We're just taking a brief moment for various reasons, I would imagine. This is very much until next time. Hopefully not too long.
Got to take a breath, you know? Got to calm down for a second. BRR BRR Patapim, they really drained the clock on that first point. As far as likelihoods go, Zero Tenacity, they are unlikely to be able to win this map out, because BRR BRR Patapim not only completed Idrisil Path, they did it with 21 seconds in the time bank as well. And it feels like they really are being able to leverage the Emma Frost in their own favor here. Emma Frost, she's just pretty strong, Ryan.
Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily say that it's all come down to that, but I do think it's a mix of not putting too much stock into Smashnez's torch. Like, it's still available for them to play, I think. I don't think they banned it out, unless I'm misremembering, like, later on.
Smashnez can play it.
Yeah, so, like, but he's not really had the chance. And even with some of the comps, maybe it's a bit of Yggdrasil's path, because we have seen, you know, stuff like the Iron Man Ultron come through, the Hawkeye Luna Snow yesterday, like we sort of mentioned. It's like the combos that C10 want to use aren't available to them, and the ones that are available to them very much shut down by the comp and idea that BRR BRR Patapim are running. It's just weird that it started now. Oh, and we're back into it. I don't think we missed much, but Smashnez tried to dip dive out. We'll try and get more information on what exactly happened there, but yeah.
Tanuki won't be missing at all during the Galactic Legend. The aimbot has been activated, and Pokey, well, won't need an aimbot. They can just have accuracy via volume of fire. A pair of miniguns will do exactly that. One player, I believe, is getting staggered in the back at the moment after being caught by a carbon crush.
Pokey allowed to get into a pretty aggressive spot, even forcing out some more of the healing to come through, and Lugia falling off of the map, potentially. Yeah, Newton's found a way in, but still, that's an aggressive, like, Cloak and Dagger ultimate, this Eternal Bond to clear all of this space, but BRR Patapim have to give up a little bit of leeway.
Yeah, I mean, a rare miscom there as well. Lugia having to reset off the map to get back into the Hulk form. Well, there was a strategist ultimate active to try and keep everyone in the midst of this fight. Ducky looking for some real value once again off the back of his eye of Agamotto. And guess what? Smashnez ready to try and follow it up in their own right as well with a Horn of Proteus from the other side. You're so worried about getting grabbed by a carbon crush, but once that's gone, the control options, they'll be limited for the side of BRR BRR Patapim. Knuten's going to open it up first, though. That is a massive eye of Agamotto, and it's overwhelming firepower. C10 simply press the cues, and BRR BRR Patapim turn to dust.
Zero Tenacity are just so good at finding these, like, combination of ultimates, switching around characters. Smashnez, it wasn't initially his plan to be on the Namor, but when you have Ducky over playing Doctor Strange to the Eye of Agamotto, it's such a perfect setup. And really, it's what's keeping Zero Tenacity in this map so far. They have less time than BRR BRR Patapim had when they were pushing into this spot. There's always a chance to push it to the end.
Always a chance. And that's exactly the kind of thing that can translate into a chance. Grabbing Tanuki early means great flank control. However, Lugia, overwhelmed by the adjudication shotgun, Smashness has to get inside of this little corner. But guess who's waiting? Here's Enzo on the Emma Frost. It's a little bit cheeky to just try and cut off where the Namor was disengaging to, but Tanuki's already back in the mix, getting back so quickly, utilizing these stellar shifts.
Galactic Legend. It's not only been good at getting some of these eliminations, but also just taking some of the strain off of this front line for BRR BRR PATAPIM, who are not going to be too worried about things at the moment. Sonic Seduction for Enzo, very, very close to being useful. And that lined up with a final judgment. That could be it. Less than a minute for Zero Tenacity to get things going. They're really close to having that God of Mischief. Windy might start the battle with this.
All right, Knudsen can very easily control all of this space, utilizing the turrets, taking his time to get broken on down here. Lugia ready to move on forward. Here comes the final judgment. It's going to be Pokey who's moving forward first. Enzo feeling the pressure start to mount upon them. Inside the Eternal Bond, it's harder to find the final hits that Pokey so desperately wants, but the Terrorcade makes it a touch easier. Great aggressive play from Ken.
At 20 seconds, you've had Ducky on the Strange this whole time, but I don't think it's going to be too much of a problem having a portal. It's more the fact that BRR BRR PATAPIM are not afraid to meet them right at the spawn door, so portal might not have an option. Galactic Legend gonna keep them right by the door. It's a brisk walk onto the point with this Eternal Bond, mostly to use as public transport more than anything. Lugia is on, he's trying to hold on with this hold, but everybody's been pulled back, which has given some more space actually to Knudsen. He's used this little pocket and he's pulled it right open. BRR BRR PATAPIM forced to use the freedom charge, have to reset the control back in the hands of the attackers.
All right, so it's nasty. They have a tool to try and make this one work. They got one fight to try and prove that they are not done here on Yggdrasil Path when it looked like everything was done and dusted. Moving into the turret is so difficult to do. Ducky reigns imperiously above, ready to drop down with the ultimate. Enzo gets instantly stunned and crushed under Whale. Giganto is weighing in favor of Smashness here. And these Monstro spawns, you better believe they're going to be untouched. Alex's fate of both worlds is over. But Winnie's is not, stealing away the ultimate with the God of Mischief, and it's a mischievous, devious lick for Zero Tenacity, who keep themselves alive on Yggdrasil Path.
BRR BRR PATAPIM were maybe dusting themselves off, thinking that we would go to a map 4. It was a nice idea to try and cut off any chance of a Ducky portal play. But it just led a bit space. Credit for Oasis and Lugia that both had to jump onto the point right in the nick of time. And the fact that in all of that chaos, Knudsen was able to find just a pixel of space to open it up, to force BRR BRR PATAPIM back onto an awkward fight. And then that lovely Namor Doctor Strange combo that has been excessively strong at the ends of these checkpoints. And BRR BRR PATAPIM haven't had an answer to it so far.
Here's the issue, though. Zero Tenacity took almost 4 minutes to get through A, and BRR BRR PATAPIM, they kind of stormed it pretty easily. When it comes to the early Yggdrasil Path attacks, I think BRR BRR PATAPIM still are a little bit favored here, and they have 20 more seconds to build up their ultimate. Zero Tenacity, they might need to augment their game plan here. Admittedly, they spent a lot of time playing around on the Iron Man, trying to extract value from that. This time, instead, rolling straight out with the Namor.
I mean, that's the potential good news for Z10 is, sure, it took the first point a while in order to grab it, but there was a lot of switching around onto what comp they wanted to play. Smashness Namor was one of the things that really got them going, and he's staying on it for now. And the wraparound, trying to take some space and really flush out probably where Tanuki and Polly are trying to play from, and Polly is getting low.
Wait, having Winnie support that push was actually so smart because they had no real means of dealing with those 3 Loki doppelgangers real quickly in this case. Still, it's going to be Pokey's making sure this angle cannot be eternally populated. Whoa, Oasis just got absolutely demolished. Their disengage was tracked so well. Zero Tenacity falling apart at the seams here as they've got nowhere to go.
It's just such a strong setup that BRR BRR PATAPIM have, and the heroes that are available means that they can just zip up onto the high ground, play in positions like Pokey, who is sat ready and waiting. Mostly just taking some of the fire here. And whether they envelop this final point, Z10, less than 10 seconds to go. Going to be able to push on the turret on the payload as per usual.
Yep, instantly demolished, unfortunately, by a full charge EMEA beam. Laying down the law right now is Enzo, but Knuten, they've got their own vigilante designs to try and enact here. Poki's already got themselves a final judgment, and it could prove a little bit too much to try and deal with. Here comes the God of Mischief, using that eternal bond, but it's rolling forward Pokey, where all of the attention needs to go. Overwhelming damage for Zero Tenacity have to try and survive through a second eternal bond, and 2 players stunned by the eye of Agamotto. Their souls separated from bodies. Tanuki cannot survive the internal damage that's drawn up against them, and it's Knuten with the second attempt here in towards the back. The adjudicated shotgun Smashers gets a smash onto Pokey, and BRR Patapim, despite making their move first, are not able to stymie Zero Tenacity.
There was an element there of just some of these support ultimates used together. The Freedom Charge and the Fate of Both Worlds. BRR Patapim feeling that they had it with the bodies available to them. Portal play, trying to stop this here and now if they can. You do have a Silent Seduction. You do have a Galactic Legend. Tanuki needs to make this play work.
Must win right here. Enzo, the Sonic Seduction has already been taken up by the Gamma Monstro of all things. Tanuki up to the skies. No, can't survive through the World Breaker Hulk. And right now, he's breaking the world of BRR Patapim. He's breaking the world of the power rankings. He's breaking the world of the Preds. And they're breaking the world of Yggdrasil Path Point A. We're heading to the B's, baby.
And this is where BRR Patapim is starting to maybe dread their attacking side when it comes up. Every meter is going to matter, and there's no ultimates available to stop things happening. Knuten, so close to having another final judgment. We're also very close to having another Horn of Proteus. Tanuki needs to survive here. He needs to back out. He has some more of this support, but it has to be now for BRR Patapim.
Tanuki trying to avoid getting 3-0'd here, but Knuten is keeping the pressure up. Enzo has to desperately try and disengage behind the physical cover. That's where you're safest from this one. Tanuki just has to hide away to make sure that this ultimate passes. Now Knuten misses heading up to the high ground. Could find themselves honorable. Eternal bonds are going to be exchanged right now. Ducky heading in towards the back with the eye of Agamotto. No player stun for now. Enzo must have responded well to it, and that means that Smashnez could not convert on the Horn of Proteus. Polly in the back is starting to really find the cracks in the armor and digging in their claws to make sure that they are going to be cracked asunder. BRR Patapim took their time, but they halted Zero Tenacity's push.
They only have 20 seconds more to work with total in the time bank. It could have been done and dusted. We could have been on the next map at this point, leg day, but no, Zero Tenacity are refusing to go down. It's not even that they're scrapping for a close series. They're scrapping for a very clean and decisive 3-0 at this rate. BRR Patapim, even with everything lined up, even with the changes that they made to their draft that seems a lot more homogenous to what we're used to seeing, it isn't working. Because Zero Tenacity have so many little clever ideas, so many kooky compositions to rely on, there is no way for BRR Patapim to silence this.
Just some quirked up gamers, ready to bring in new looks all the time. Smashnez and Knuten both sitting on 43k damage at the moment, by the way. Credit to Alex and Ken. They are absolutely pumping out their heals right now. 73 and 74k apiece. Sheesh.
It's required of them, expected, because they are a glorious strategist duo. But it really is a case of just how much damage has been thrown out from Zero Tenacity too. And so much of it is just burst. It is a lot of like trash damage as well. Knuten's going to break down as many barriers as possible. And then just Smashnez hot shotting from distance. BRR Patapim have to build all of this up slowly and surely. And it's going to be hard to just find that first pick in order to make this a swift 6 versus 5.
Knuten picking their targets carefully, but Polly is going to start to have access to that backline. This is where the danger starts to come when you're facing BRR Patapim. This makes space for Pokey. Smashnez is already grabbed. Must have used the Blessing of the Deep a touch too early. Knuten finds themselves broken down. Out come the regeneration domains if Polly can't be punished here. This might be a big opening for BRR Patapim to try and work off here. A nice angle for Pokey to bring out the culling turret to start carving through Zero Tenacity. Grabbing 2 already. Ducky's just going to keep this card contested, but remember, if your Doctor Strange is the last to fall, that means that teleporting back is not going to be on the cards.
Means that you might have his portal for some of these later fights, which I think is what he would prefer. No extra time allocated if BRR BRR PATAPIM do hit this. It's more about the positions of where the spawn doors are going to be. So here, Zero Tenacity happy to give this up. They know exactly how much space they have to work with. Really now, it's just one good fight. All they need.
BRR BRR PATAPIM. They need to extend the series. After going undefeated going into this grand final of groups, they do not want to be instantly swept. Knudsen, though, is ready to put this series to bed with the final judgment. Can easily carve through the shields that are placed in front of them. And when he said it's time to go, Eternal Bonds popped by both sides. The Cloak and Daggers need to be prioritized and targeted. Luki are doing their best to just hide away for a moment in the corner. Maybe use the indestructible guard to keep Knudsen in the midst of this. But Knudsen hasn't managed to grab that much. Does Luki DC'd? That looked very suspect, and they just keep walking into the wall. That might have been what called the pause previously. Out comes the Eye of Agamotto. Enzo babysat for as long as possible. Knudsen laying down the culling turret damage, but Tanuki reigns above it all and imperiously, callously, uncaring lays down damage after damage and finds frag after frag.
Yeah, I don't think Lugi is there. He hasn't turned into Hulk or anything, so currently now it's just a run back for everybody else in Zero Tenacity. About 20 meters to play with, and Polly having a freedom charge means that they have a little bit more to work with. I don't think there's going to be any chance, actually. The ball play is going to be right on the edge, and no! BRR BRR PATAPIM at least take a map, but frustrating circumstances to say the very least for Z10. Better now than sort of in the final map, potentially, but still, you're going to be a little bit miffed that you didn't end this 3-0.
Oh, you are going to be a touch miffed, but it could have been anybody's game. Sometimes the misfortune strikes when you least expect it. Alex getting a well-deserved MVP for a Lunar Snow performance that boggles the mind. BRR BRR PATAPIM, they are back in this series, and we're heading to a map number 4.
We do get to see a little bit more, and this is also because we sort of mentioned about like the picks and bans when it comes to maps. You now have free reign, if you're Zero Tenacity, to pick whichever map type that you want. Domination is now back on the table because we've played through Domination, Convergence, and then Convoy. So at least now you're on sort of the tournament point of this groups. You can choose any other map that we haven't seen so far, at the very least, to play up here. So we get to see, I mean, let's have a look at a couple of options, because we have seen Zero Tenacity pick Araco against BRR BRR PATAPIM on Friday. But it was a pretty bad loss on it. They attacked first, they got pretty much to the end of the first checkpoint, couldn't get it any further, and then BRR BRR PATAPIM pretty much sort of matched it at that race. So, is that going to be the choice that you have realistically? It has been the only map choice that they've shown thus far, but with Domination available, you could go to the likes of Krakoa because you have a good result there. Yeah. I guess most important is just making sure that like Lugia is set up again if there have been some like connectivity issues.
I think I'd personally avoid going to a Domination. The last map I want to go to is actually Hell's Heaven, which I think might be BRR BRR PATAPIM's best map. But maybe there's a world where you actually do go to Krakoa to try and avoid BRR BRR PATAPIM being able to pick Hell's Heaven later into the series.
Yeah, I mean, when it's like looking at the map stats, you know, like, okay, so what are the maps that BRR BRR PATAPIM like to play? Well, they played this one. They haven't
a little bit of trouble because of a tech issue, but at the same time, they're like, well, I think we would have 3-0'd this without a tech issue. We can definitely bring this, and I think there's a lot of confidence for Zero Tenacity in themselves right now, but they're going to the map where they got resoundingly pantsed by BRR BRR PATAPIM last time.
BRR BRR PATAPIM not able to choose the side. Going to be put onto the attack first, but do have that first save, and it is going to be EMEA Frost, so really does feel like for BRR BRR PATAPIM, those first two maps going poorly when it came to the focus on the Human Torch. Instead they're going for something that is a lot more general to what has been coming out from other teams. Zero Tenacity, I mean, you can't say what you want, but like Winnie's Loki has been looking amazing today, and that focus of banning him out and picking him first, you can't fault it.
I mean, it certainly does avoid a VP-esque scenario where you find yourself with no good strategist to play with. Winnie's output is second to none, and of course this is going to be the EMEA Frost taken away now by BRR BRR PATAPIM. We don't want to have to deal with this again, as it was a nasty reign over them previously. I think both of these are fairly expected bans here of the Vanguards, getting rid of Polly's best. And now it's down to the Protect. Where does Zero Tenacity want to focus? They have previously protected the Adam.
I mean, you're defending first, so Adam is not a bad shout here. Also just saving the torch, because not only has it been the focus of BRR PATAPIM up until now, torch is very good on this map, because you have these like long corridors and all of this cover, lots of 90-degree angles that you could just hide behind and then peek out, hot shot from distance. Now it's BRR PATAPIM, they're looking at that triple support lineup, that combination, and instead of actually taking out Knutens and Warlock, they want a gun for Oasis's Mantis.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. You don't mind Knuten being on the Adam Warlock as much, because it does mean that you're not going to be going up in as much of a duelist threat. Still, there's a prioritization here towards Pokey Sarlocke, which does have a lot of value in its own right. Getting rid of Alona Snow here would be very advisable, as Alex was putting up some absolute numbers on it previously.
The right heroes could make all the difference.
The only concern I have about it is more in the sense of like the Human Torch is still available for Tanuki. So we can see that Human Torch versus Human Torch. You know, you ban out the Luna, at least you stop play Idol Aura, so it's a little bit more of a case of like, without the Torch, then Tanuki just goes to something else. You get Luna Ultimate, but then you have saved Loki, so them getting Luna isn't too shabby at all, because you could just copy onto that. But I guess you're also wanting to copy onto Cloak and Dagger at the moment, because you get that Terror Cape, you get that damage boost, and then a really nice ultimate with the Eternal Bond too. And the duration of it being a lot longer means that you can just basically eke it out for every little second and get as much value out of it as possible. But I don't know if this is going to be the last map of this best of 5 final for Group A leg day, but I want to keep this gravy train going, because this has been such a good series to watch, and it makes me very, very excited for playoffs next week.
Oh, I've been having a fantastic time with this one with you, Ryan. I mean, to expand on your point about the God of Mischief copying Cloak and Dagger as well, an extra Terror Cape is not to be underestimated. It has been somewhat meta-defining. If we had to choose one ability, it has really changed up this meta going into Ignite Stage 1.
Oh, this is just out of the doors at pace as well. If you got Ken over on the Mantis this time, so Zero Tenacity not really given a moment to set up. This is just almost a brawly approach, and Tanuki is on his old main. He's back on the jet.
A singular Vanguard in the form of Polly here, and they are not going to be sticking around for long. It's Winnie who draws first blood here, getting the knockout when it was at its most vulnerable on the side of Polly. I believe it may have been stunned up potentially by an exile from Lugia.
It's very similar for BRR PATAPIM setup on Midtown as well, where you have like the Penny Parker setups and you go for the Squirrel Girl, like Enzo moving over to Punisher. He's on a controller, by the way, and he's on like one of the hardest hit scans to aim. But the whole point is to hold down that left control, hold W on the keyboards, and go in for these fights for BRR PATAPIM to create some space. The unfortunate truth, though, it's been a minute, and they haven't really gone anywhere.
BRR PATAPIM have disengaged here in order to try and avoid Winnie's usage of the Eternal Bond, and I imagine they are just going to wait out for 12 or so seconds now, just allow Enzo to keep building up towards their own ultimate. Oh, here we go. Oh, this is going to be the Jeff Nado. Tanuki's ready to go with this. Can Pokey be shut down quickly enough? It's afflicted with the culling debuff. It's perfect there from Knuten. And just a second too late, Knuten. Oh, the shades of old. The nostalgia.
He knows.
Right now, when he is nodding his head. Yeah, I'm that guy.
He knows what POV we were sat on and watching there. And he loves to play up to the cameras as much as possible. BRR PATAPIM pulled out a similar strategy to this as well when they're attacking last time in Zero Tenacity. Despite not really having chance to maybe VOD review because of the games that they've had to play, they've learned their lessons nicely. BRR PATAPIM switching stuff around. Tanuki now over on the Wolverine, Enzo on the Hulk. 2 minutes has passed. Half the time bank is gone.
Fastball special on the docket here. Going to be very difficult for Ducky to try and deal with. Blasting of a Deep can maybe be forced out here, and indeed it will be. Smash Nets can be grabbed out of the air by Enzo, but already just grabbed out of the air instead by the Wolverine. Unbreakable Guard is going to be applied to many members here of BRR PATAPIM, so he's finally starting to get some forward momentum and force a disengagement from Zero Tenacity.
Enzo is in. Seeing a little bit of that Insomnia play, which is going to send nightmares onto the side of Zero Tenacity. The Mach 10 Wolverine potentially flying through the sky hasn't actually shown up yet because it hasn't been needed. Enzo is really pushing the limitations of this Hulk to dive right into the backline. He's created so much space and hasn't had to use that Hulk smash to go super turbo mode. He's still finding picks like that. He's still going.
Everybody gangster until you face the Hulk on the rollers. Rolling on forward, playing to... Oh, too late to save Polly. Ken held onto it for a moment too long. The invisible boundary is now going to be without one of their Vanguard. Smashers could not see where they were placing their ultimate, and so did not get too much off the back of it. And Pokey in the back with the Dance of the Butterflies just tears Zero Tenacity asunder. Moving back to the Flora Colossus, you need to pay some attention to Lugia, who's keeping this one contested. Now the World Breaker Hulk is going to be even more troublesome. Still Smashnes should be easily overwhelmed back here. Lugia mind controlled. The remainder of Zero Tenacity have made it back in time though. Somehow the stall was good from Lugia.
It's crazy. This was just looking like more time, but maybe more big ultimates having to be used for BRR BRR PATAPIM. But now it is just flat out that they're able to go for another engagement and another fight here. You have got Knuten that moved over towards the Doctor Strange. He's been taken out, and it still feels that BRR BRR PATAPIM are going to be pushing onto the second point eventually. It feels almost inevitable. But then moments like that happen. Ducky's found a pick over onto Pokey. You've got Knuten flying back as the Iron Man, and this fight is still ongoing. This is so much time. It's into OT. Tanuki forced to dive in. He has the last stand, but all of these bodies from BRR BRR PATAPIM have to stay on the point. Finally, they get it across the board, but Zero Tenacity must be thinking, damn, we did well to buy so much time there.
Tanuki cashes in on the protagonist Aura to find 2 final hits when they were the most needed, but BRR BRR PATAPIM, they're being stretched to their very limit here, Ryan. We expect this to be a quick 3-0 for BRR BRR PATAPIM. Zero Tenacity's capacity to iterate on their gameplay and improve is remarkable.
We've heard so many stories of teams that, like, in scrims or after bad results, have got the staff or just the intelligent players to bounce back, realize what they did wrong, and iterate on it and improve. Zero Tenacity was definitely a dark horse in this tournament, but the actual level that they're able to do this on is crazy. BRR BRR PATAPIM are also being creative now, which is nice to see, but it is really having their resources stretched. World Hulk coming through from Enzo, and Tanuki has had this last stand for a good amount of time. Now he's going in with a dash, but Knuten responds in kind by taking out Ken. He goes for the resets, or at least is trying, but going on to the heavier, tankier Hulk, it's not going to get that cracking impact back.
Pokey not able to get too much on the back of a Dance of the Butterflies, and, well, not too much gained off of the Namor ultimate either. The Horn of Proteus. The sound may have filled these halls and reverberated proudly, but in the end, the event feed had nothing there to deal with it. Pokey's going to try and disengage, stealths away.
I mean, it's a good play as well. We know how much stock BRR BRR PATAPIM has put. They actually wanted to protect the Psylocke themselves for Pokey, so Knuten is pretty much on watch to put him in his back pocket if he can. This is not the best place to be fighting, though, when you've got 2 Hulks, but the invisible boundary is going to make this a little bit easier on the eyes and the heart for BRR BRR PATAPIM. Knuten going down means that this stretch is going to go well, and considering it's the payload having to go up this very steep hill, this is a fight that should be favored towards Zero Tenacity, but the numbers are dwindling.
No strategist ultimate though, so how do you deal with the damage coming out of Lugia? Grabbing him by the throat is a good start, and reducing the HP to 0 is an even better one. Puny Banner can't stand up to all of the damage coming forth, but guess what? Knuten has swapped over again onto the Doctor Strange. The pentagram of Ferala is going to open, and Ducky might be ready to go for a little donkey #1 here with the Strangling Prison, who's already cut off most of the strategists. Has to worry about Tanuki dragging him down. The rage is good, and the frags are better. Yeah, they're grabbed away temporarily by their counterpart, but Knuten's next up on the dining menu, and it's an all-you-can-eat buffet for Tanuki. Carving through with a steak knife and a grin on his face. The rage is maximized, and the attack should be good. Polly with Diamond Fist carves through Zero Tenacity's defense, and we're heading to the last point of Araco.
Yeah, like a good meal leg day, you want to savor every second. And BRR BRR PATAPIM had to. They were in OT. They didn't have much else to rely on other than the bodies on the clock and the time that they were working with on the fuse. But Zero Tenacity, at least they have some things to work on. You can see BRR PATAPIM trying to keep pushing, keep this momentum going, and forcing out the regeneration domain this early in the fight. You see everything else used for BRR PATAPIM. Dance of the Butterflies, I think, was interrupted by Pokey, but the invisible boundary is going to go up, and Horn of Poetry is still able to catch on to Tanuki all the way through that. Knudsen slamming down as well, just with the fist instead of the Orca, means that BRR PATAPIM reset with 45 seconds.
Pokey, no, the headshot from downtown. Oh, that is disgusting, Ryan.
To be expected, I think, at this rate. But yeah, Pokey, I think in the middle of Dance of Butterflies, he was using it and then it got cut to 50%. I don't know what took him out of it, but he's got it available almost again.
Oh, already another grab. Pokey forced into the midst of zero tenacity. Knudsen can just stare down from on high like a king surveying all the land that belongs to him. Simba, look upon my lands. And those are the Shadowlands filled with Enzo. You must never go there. The World Breaker Hulk resides in these dark spaces, and he is an absolute terror to behold.
We'll have to keep fighting until we have a winner.
And it's the hard part of the map that this payload has managed to get across on. Finishing the map is very difficult here, but the worst has passed. Overtime fights are plenty so far in this series. You do have the Eternal Bond ready to go from Alex, but trying to wait it out. There isn't too much available other than the Hulk Ultimate as of now for Zero Tenacity, but just in time the Eternal Bond for Oasis has come online.
Dance with Butterflies good to go. You don't want to use it against Smashnose by himself or just blasting him for deep out of it, but you've got to keep someone on the cart at all times as we are in overtime. Lugia responds to the team. Oh, everyone in one place. Head by Giganto. Aquatic supremacy may condemn BRR PATAPIM to a briny grave. They're going to do it undermanned, but it's still doable for Tanuki. The goats potentially, but no, taken down by Smashnose. The Trident of the Deep strikes into the heart of BRR PATAPIM, and that's where Zero Tenacity draw the line.
It's been so fun to watch these two teams take chunks out of each other, honestly. Zero Tenacity, it's been a sort of good hold for them to stop it from getting too out of hand, but the reality is this: when the attacks last, they didn't even get to that first checkpoint without BRR PATAPIM holding them. We saw them deal with the start of that map a lot better this time around, with the nice little play the BRR PATAPIM try with the one Vanguard and just holding W with the Jeff. But this side has to be a lot stronger. You also saved the Human Torch for Smashnose. Are you going to use it?
I don't know, maybe the save with the Human Torch, yeah, it's an option for Smashnose, but also could be an attempt to try and bait out something like a Invisible Woman ban to try and make sure if it came through it would be understaffed. For now though, Lugia is just getting bits done on the Hulk, and well, if you're doing well on the Hulk, you might as well play the Namor alongside it, because Smashnose is just putting out so much damage. 20.3k.
I mean, it's also just the combinations that have come in. Strangling Prison, Agamotto, Ducky, been forced onto a lot today, to say the very least.
4, 3.
The Groot also met nicely. Really, I think so much of the focus for Zero Tenacity here is just getting things moving a lot cleaner than BRR PATAPIM, because it did take them 2 minutes to pretty much get past this first corner.
Barnacook already used a quick exile there onto Tanuki to put him on notice. As Knudsen only a couple of seconds away from an X1 already. Takes down Pokey with a tainted voltage. Nasty. So Knudsen's had a lights out series, by the way. What a play from him again and again. The disengagement's looking a little bit messy. The Ironwood wall got in the way of many a leap, and it feels like Polly's not got any value off the diamond form here. Ken out on the disengage. Rotterstern strikes true once more again and again from Knudsen.
It's the focus as well. It's always on the right targets, even when you have 3 bodies on top of each other and so much on your screen to try and deal with. He is Hunter's sight on those backline strategists. Ken was taken out, now needed to get back into this engagement. An internal bond for Alex, at least sat on when they need that security, but Ken might go down again. He does. The Kraken's impact alongside Lugia, just able to catch him out just before the invisible boundary was able to be built up. You have the eternal bond as well being used, but it's not going to matter. The punch is too much for BRR PATAPIM to deal with. And they're pretty much getting to this first checkpoint with 2.5 minutes on the clock.
Florida's going to be able to roll on back here with the pentagram of Ferrala, teleporting their team to where they are needed the most. They're going to be moving into a prepared Ducky here with plenty of walls. Enzo already gets the ideal exile onto Knuten. Rodbreaker Hulk may be necessary. Smashness lays down the horn of Proteus. Giganto gets his pound of flesh and Polly's down as well. Tanuki had no passive to play with, and so he's condemned to the hells that they reign over for now. BRR Patapim are reduced to 0 when it comes to numbers.
Holy moly, this Tenacity keep on giving, and this full best of 5, it takes a lot out of even the most experienced of players. Which I've got to say, speaking of which, for BRR Patapim, sure, you've got those grinders that you've picked up of Polly and Pokey, but this is high altitudes of games. There's a lot of pressure, and even though you can be like, it's seeding, it's still a final. And it's only going to get more and more pressured here for BRR Patapim. It's whether they can keep their heads, because Knuten is thriving off this energy, and he really wants to put this series to bed.
A new fastball special, potentially Enzo making it deep into the backline. Once Winnie's super bad, forcing out the regeneration domain would be ideal. Knuten afflicts multiple players with the culling debuff, but he's shut down. Pokey finally has picked up the Punisher and now is able to just reign over all.
These things have stopped for a moment. Silence echoes so far in Araco. And the monolith, I suppose, big Groot that's moving along as the payload is landing in a perfect spot actually for BRR Patapim. It has been picked up for free though for Tenacity, so they can keep things moving, but BRR Patapim have control of this high ground. Anybody that tries to push along for Tenacity is going to get jumped on, and with a last stand, yeah, Tanuki's going to jump from a pretty high distance.
New admin task just, whoa, Tanuki. What a Terror Cape as well, by the way. Unbelievable setup from Alex and Tanuki together to make sure that you could get the one-tap even through a potential strategist ultimate. Oasis dragged out of their own eternal bond, and so no healings available to save them. Great target focus.
And Tanuki pulling him right into Pokey too. Either the turret on the first one or just the shotgun. Pretty much next day delivery on some of these eliminations. But you have to look at Smashness. You have that Strangled Prison. You have that Horn of Proteus. We know what is coming. We have seen it multiple times. BRR Patapim have to be ready.
Laying down so much suppressive fire here with the culling turret. Is going to build up towards that ultimate in no time at all. In fact, already has it. Alex in towards the back. Has to be careful not to be isolated here. But the Terror Cape just tears through Lugia, tears through Smashness. Multiple seductions. Everyone rolls their way on forward and makes them easy potential victims for Pokey. Just choosing a better target. Not too worried about Ducky. Tanuki will deal with that. I want the juicier Asgardian meat.
Yeah, hold on for BRR Patapim. It's still a hold on like Strangled Prison, not catching on too much. Horn of Proteus wasn't a clean chance, I suppose. But you're reading into this, right? Like, these players obviously not seeing what opponent ultimates are available, but some of them are experienced enough to know exactly how this works. That's a great catch, and Wolverine into Groot is the counter that you really need. Ducky can't just get anything going at this rate, and we're just seeing Tanuki swiftly go from player A to player B, carving them up like there's nobody's business, and this position on the map has sat nicely for BRR Patapim.
My Tanuki Go agenda has been revived, thankfully, in this one. I may have been looking a touch foolish heading into this, but Tanuki is really delivering now. The bounce pad is getting a touch troublesome when it comes to delivering on those berserk states, but here's a nice final stand onto a backline. Winnie and Oasis never stood a chance against this adamantium fury that is Prophet.
Now 1 minute left. And it hasn't really been connected for Tenacity, whether it's the positioning of the point, whether it's Tanuki on this flurry of picks. Is still seeing those same ultimates in the corner that I mentioned 2 minutes ago. There hasn't been a clean bit of coordination for Tenacity, which is odd considering that's been the main reason why we've gone so far in this series. Something is just not connecting here.
The geography can be very stifling here. Ducky is continuously accosted by Tanuki, but Knuten has everything they need now. They know Tanuki's game, has to use the Feral Leap to get on out of there. However, already the regeneration domains from Loki have come on through. Smash this needs to find some real value out of this. An enraged Gamma Squid is going to start to lay down so much damage. In the back, you've got to worry about Polly as well. Gets the indestructible guard from Ender before moving into the World Breaker. Hulk form, Polly taking so much damage. Stuns coming through onto a Cloak and Dagger. And now it needs to be Knuten. It's always been Knuten, but unfortunately the culling isn't delivering on the debuffs. The resets aren't there. Pokey stands within the invisible boundary, untouched, unbothered, unmoisturized, but still in their lane and still delivering. The overtime ticks down, and BRR Patapim bring us 2-2.
Full 5 mapper in this final of Group A. And there's life in BRR Patapim. A terrible start for them, frankly, as they tried out some different ideas. And even on the maps that we saw BRR Patapim cleanly win against Zero Tenacity previously, it's going a little bit further. These fights are going on a little bit longer. And I'm so glad that this has gone the distance, because I love both of these teams. I want them to do well in playoffs and obviously beyond if we see them at some international lands. It's more the fact of, like, as a neutral, this is just some really entertaining Marvel Rivals. The mind games when it comes to the drafts, the maps, the picks, the coordination and the synergies between characters, team-ups, and their ultimates. It's everything you would want to see from Marvel Rivals esports.
I mean, this is prime EMEA here. We have moved past VP automatically win. We have so much competition in this region, so much talent, but no one can stay on top for long, and we still have yet another grand finals from Group B to go after this. But I feel like we've almost seen everything that esports has to offer already, and we still have a map number 5. We're looking at a potential reverse sweep.
And it's the same thing for Zero Tenacity here. They can't go to a convoy map. It has to be Convergence or Domination. Where exactly do you feel is like the best opportunity? Because right now, it maybe seemed like BRR Patapim missed their warm-up scrim in the first couple of games were that, but now they are certainly going, and even with Zero Tenacity playing as well as they are, it's starting to wane. I imagine like the energy is changing, the exhaustion is starting to kick in a bit more. But for BRR Patapim, they are used to a good best of 5. They've taken Virtus Pro to a fair few of them in the past, so now they want to be able to cinch this one out. Maybe frustrated that they went this far in the first place, but it's a better first opponent or what side of the bracket you're going to be on. It is going to be Krakoa ending on the Domination, which has been a good map for both sides. 2-0 are both of them, but there's always that element of BRR Patapim on Domination have always been good. They would always take Virtus Pro to these maps and beat them there. The caveat, I suppose, is that Zero Tenacity made very, very swift work of BRR Patapim over on that first domination of Badim T'Challa, which feels like an eternity ago.
It does feel like an eternity ago. Oh, okay. Going for the early ban on Luna here for BRR Patapim. They are going to be protecting, of course, their Emma Frost, noting how much the gradient of Emma Frost versus no Emma Frost had hurt them previously. Now the question is, you're going to get rid of both the Cap and the Psylocke here to try and force BRR Patapim away from that backline harass style?
I mean, it worked last time. And I mean, BRR Patapim also moving, like, we've seen them focus so much on getting either Magneto or Captain America. And so, like, the Emma Frost pickup and ban out is good for them to an extent. They've taken out that Vanguard duo that would have been considered at the start of this week a GG's done. You don't have Emma Frost, you don't have Magneto, there's no chance. But the Psylocke protected of support's going to be the thing that sort of cleans out for Zero Tenacity, at least to begin. And they saved the Human Torch, but like we just saw on the counterpart of this map, Arako, previous, I don't think we saw anybody from Z10 move on to that character at any point.
Pick your hero or villain.
Yeah, the Human Torch was not a priority despite the protect that was invested. And one of the things that really is a huge asset to BRR Patapim is that you really want to ban out Captain America and Psylocke because Polly and Pokey are a nasty duo. on that pair. But also, you really, really want to ban the Loki and the Luna, not just because they're powerful, but particularly because Alex and Ken are some of the best individual examples of Luna Snow and Loki players. Ken, for a while, was lauded as the best Loki in EU. Crazy good on the hero, and that's why it's coming up so early in the ban draft.
And then, like, I guess, like, teams like Saipei for Virtus Pro also seen as up there when it comes to that kind of, like, almost like off strategist. We haven't really got names for them at this point, but not the main sort of healer, the more flexible one. It's more of a focus, I suppose, because of, like you mentioned, the protects that have come in onto Loki very early on. But pivots have had to be made naturally as we go into this final best of 5, ending on domination. So the best way to see these two teams scrapping out, but in the high-octane action, speak for themselves. Tanuki's going to be over on the Human Torch. We finally see that head-to-head. And there's not going to be any chance of checking your watch or yawning here. It's the full best of 5 played out for Group A.
Hotly contested. We said it was BRR Patapim's group to win. And while that is still the case, it's far from free. Pokiore taking a little bit of poke here in the way from Ducky. Overwhelmed smash snares. Great third partying on that dive. And now it's down to the aerial fight already. We see there's going to be an invisible woman coming through from Ken to give Smash a little bit of a disadvantage when it comes to survivability in that play. Still, Smash Days is really delivering on the Human Torch. You can see why he got target banned so thoroughly by BRR Patapim early into this series.
Yeah, 50% on having a supernova, but it's more the fact of he's been involved. We spoke about those combos in the pre-show as well, of just quite literally burning people down to 0 HP in a flash. And for now, it's just a reset required. Most people on the characters that they would want to be on, certainly for BRR Patapim, it's a little bit different. Seeing Enzo pull out the Hulk a little bit more certainly raises an eyebrow, but it's not too shocking. The Vanguards do feel pretty good to use in a varied set of scenarios. But Canute, and he's the player to watch, right? He's been so impactful, and certainly these final judgments, it's going to be hard for BRR Patapim to take this point of how immovable Zero Tenacity tend to be.
Ducky falling early, but Enzo traded in response. Oasis being down means that maybe it's a little bit harder to get some value out of Winnie's God of Mischief, but wouldn't even be generating it. Pokey so nasty when it comes to the Psylocke.
You've got both strategist ultimates now for BRR Patapim. It was before when we were going back to Benim to Chala that Zero Tenacity were taking the point and holding it to like 80% on the board. The BRR Patapim, that's like the cleanest fight that they've had on domination so far, maybe even some of the cleanest fights that they've had full stop today. Oki just chipping through, dance to both fights available. In fact, a lot building up. This is going to be a hell of a fight coming out next, and Lugia, Freedom Charge might be the thing that starts this engagement as they try to eat their way forward. Actually, it's going to be the Eternal Bond. Now, final judgment burrowing on through against BRR Patapim. Not quite finding the picks, and in fact, it's the stab in the back from Ken that finds that first elimination as things are trucking up for BRR Patapim.
Oh, maybe get mind controlled in the air right here. There's the attempt at the eye of the Agamotto. Both Alex and Ken are falling on down. BRR Patapim are going to have to do it with whatever health pools they already have, and they're going to expand them considerably as the World Breaker Hulk takes to the stage of a massive health pool to work with. But against Zero Tenacity's raid fires, it quickly reduces to 0.
And that looked like a really uncomfortable fight for Zero Tenacity, that they were going to lose it. But just Ducky's Eye of Agamotto catching on to both strategists. We've seen so many like 3, 4, 5Ks when it comes to the stuns of the Eye of Agamotto. But just getting the backline and then the follow through to take them out was key. And that's where Zero Tenacity have been incredible in these fights. The target prioritization, the focus to take out some of these big players. And BRR Patapim fighting with no ultimates, nearly no ultimates at all available. It couldn't be further away for them.
Polly needs to be punished for this aggression. They can't be allowed to move up this far with a fully charged beam. Lugia is already falling low, doesn't have the World Breaker anymore. And there's a quick bit of peeling coming through from Smash. They're trying to knock back that Polly from where they are the most dangerous. Enzo playing around the outsides is playing as the Scientist banner, so not quite as dangerous as they would otherwise like. Finally back into a form. Great accuracy coming through from the Gamma Blaster. 96% in favor now of Zero Tenacity. Ducky One already has their Eye of Agamotto ready to go into the back line. Need to worry consistently about both the right click from the cloak and dagger and the force physics of the invisible woman to try and shut it on down. Alex, in the midst of all of this, gets Ken. Enzo might well lose the hold form as well, even with the eternal bond. For staying power wasn't there. And now Pokey, for demands are made of the hero for Shinobi to try and carve through all of this. Smashnez, psionically seduced and easily cleaned on up. Now the dance of the butterflies is going to be mostly stymied by the regeneration domain. Polly picked up elsewhere by Lugia, the goat themselves. An invisible boundary drawn on up, and it's plenty of staying power for BRR Patapim, but Zero Tenacity, they're not lacking in options themselves. The final judgment comes on through. You cannot stand up to this. Tanuki is likely going to be regretting using that supernova.
Just at the end, hops off of the point. It goes the way of Zero Tenacity. And the reason that we got to this best of 5 is starting to show all the way back on that first map. Just the fights, the cleanness of it. BRR Patapim, it was a big dedication with the ultimates they had available. They lose that engagement, and then they're just on 15 to 20% ult charge going into like the final engagement. There's nothing there to work with. And Smashnez, 10 and 2, 4 final blows. It's just the worry, the concern that BRR Patapim had against him is really starting to shine. He's had a fantastic day, but to finish on the character that was initially being banned out before, it almost feels like a victory lap. There's a chance still here for BRR Patapim. Any tricks that they have, any aces up the sleeve, they need to come out here.
If you have any ideas, now's the time. Ducky, looking to get aggressive early on, using the portal. Lugia is going to be demanding attention as they roll on through here. And straight onto a point here. They want to try and set up Canuden for success in the culling turret.
Trying to work out exactly where this engagement is going to start from, and it is more of a straightforward play. Pokey moving over towards the Ultron means that you have these double flyers. Looks like we've seen a little bit more of this kind of stuff in the past, but it's not really that successful over on Benim T'Challa a little bit earlier. These first picks have been going the way of Benim T'Challa, and you can sort of see just how close it's getting. But the supernova that was saved on one side from Zero Tenacity is actually going to be taken out by the player that used it right at the end. Tanuki, very clean, but Lugia is keeping these fights going. He's been an absolute threat, and Z10 might be able to take this point first.
Diving down into Eternal Bond did not serve too well for Tanuki. Pokey reigning above it all. Ducky stuns 2 strategists, manages to finish off one, and Pokey's going to be hard-pressed to try and survive as the other, Alex, overwhelmed, became the cloak form, but couldn't go to the Dark Force dimension fast enough. And Zero Tenacity now back in control.
Enzo switching over to the Doctor Strange, so wants to try and copy exactly what Ducky's been able to do. There's so many options. If Zero Tenacity do end up taking this final, who could be the MVP for them? Because honestly, everybody's had a blinder. Enzo has to worry about the backline in before. And just seeing exactly what corner that he can sit on, whether these sort of positions are being cleared up, and exactly keeping an eye on where Tanuki and Pokey are going to be going down, because Tanuki having to use that team up with Invisible Woman to keep themselves going, and the Rage of Ultron more used defensively whilst the Invisible Boundaries met with a final judgment.
Oh, the invisible boundaries broken into here by Canute, and Enzo barely stood a chance. Still maybe had dreams of the Eye of Agamotto opening and revealing the win for BRR Patapim. Tanuki just has no cover to play with up here, so Smashnez and Canute can combine to destroy him.
Yuki has another freedom charge. Considering how many players are up in the sky, he's still able to wail on people on the ground, or whether he's decided to just, I fly now. New Captain America, but honestly jumping down and just making things hard. Oh man, Tanuki does have the supernova, but I do think BRR Patapim look a little bit lost here with how they're looking around the map.
A supernova to try and break into this. Winnie still has the God of Mischief in the back pocket if it's needed, but Ducky flew into the Cyclone. It's a weather event where flying is unadvisable. Tanuki with the 3K. Oh, we demanded a GOAT performance to try and bring themselves back into this fight, and you better believe that Tanuki is ready to deliver on that one. A quick turnaround in favor of BRR Patapim to save their series.
Yeah, maybe Ducky flying a little bit close to the sun, because he flies right into Tanuki that finds himself a perfect opportunity. BRR Patapim are used to these scrappy engagements. It might be a sort of newer comp that they're playing with the Ultron combination, but they're used to this. It's just keeping the pressure up at Zero Tenacity. This is new grounds. This is where players really carve themselves under pressure into diamonds. And that diamond is going to help them augment their way onto the site with a freedom charge, that extra HP to go for this engagement. Whilst you have the Eternal Bond, keeping people tapped up. It's actually going to be a complete reset from Zero Tenacity as they go for the portal.
Beautiful bait. Exchanging the freedom charge for the Eternal Bond, I think is incredibly valuable. Here comes the Rage of Ultron. It's going to be a lot of damage laid on down, but it's mostly converted into healing by that regeneration domain that was deployed by Winnie. And now Smashness is going to be exchanging fire. When it comes to the aerial duel, it should be Smashness who's consistently losing because of what Pokey brings to the table. Now it's time for Supernova to rain down from above. A good dodge away from the Doctor Strange's attentions. Ducky heads towards the back. Pokey and Ken are both stunned. Soul separated from body and flesh separated from bone. Canute and Carves through all and sundry with double miniguns in each hand and a smile on each face. It's Winnie finding the final blows, and BRR BRR PATAPIM going to have to TP back.
You still got a chance.
It's everything on the line now. Whether they're going to have time, actually forces just one of the players to go Spider-Man. Tanuki's going to go down, so this is immediately a 5 versus 6. Turret from Canute and set up.
That was the ideal angle. So much damage coming on through. Pokey never stood a chance. Immune to the CC of the Eye of Agamotto. And the pockets there from the Doctor Strange to defend the Cloak and Dagger, who was stunned. Zero Tenacity have done it. BRR BRR PATAPIM can't get through the portal. 3-2. A reverse sweep denied. And a brand new crown on the head of Z10.
Potentially a Canoe era coming in with Zero Tenacity. Looking good going into playoffs, coming out as the first seed. Canute was saying in so many interviews, whether it was podcasts before the event happened or in the post-game interviews after games like this, that they deserved a little bit more recognition and they felt the teams were underestimating them. I do think that BRR BRR PATAPIM went in with the right ideas. They knew not to underestimate, but it's almost like they put too much focus in certain areas. That was a blind no. It's the small things, right? It's after every single Eye of Agamotto Ducky gets. It might connect onto two people, and if it's one of them's a strategist, they're dead. They are down in an instant. The follow through is always there. The ultimate combinations. It's the every single time that it matters. Zero Tenacity nail it. They dot their I's, they cross their T's, and they have found themselves first seed out of Group A.
Well and truly stun-locked right here, right now. Right, what did we just witness on Krakoa as well? I mean, BRR BRR PATAPIM, they're so good at domination, but Zero Tenacity take 2 of those maps away. And this could have even been a 3-0 in a world where Lugia's PC had hung on a second longer.
Yeah.
That's the reality of it.
It's so many moments like this, right, of like the perfect timings of these ults, and I think that we saw amazing moments from like Tanuki, right? I think the move over to seeing a little bit more Emma Frost from BRR BRR PATAPIM was nice. It was the right change. But like I said in the middle of that game like day, if we have an MVP to give, who would you give it to? Like here, look at Pokey right at the top of the screen, and Ken. The 2 players that were stunned, Ken is gone instantly. Every single time that we saw the Eye of Agamotto, the people that it hit were out of the server straight afterwards. Every single time from Zero Tenacity.
Honestly, I don't even know who to give the MVP to. Like, I think that Canute had a great performance on the Winter Soldier and others, but Ducky was decimating everyone when they were playing on the Emma Frost. I think that Ducky was a singular force in the server for the first 2 maps. Just absolutely flum to catch up with how Z10 are feeling after an absolutely lights out performance. And of course, it's going to be Canute and Mr. Smiles coming on in. How are you feeling, bud?
I am absolutely ecstatic, man. You know, I have no words. You know, we got gobsmacked by these people. And it just feels great to just come on top now. And, you know, it really proves that we've done our work and our homework is done. I submitted that and I got an A+. I mean, like, we couldn't have done anything else. I think it was immaculate.
Let's talk about that homework, because like you sort of mentioned, like on Friday, it was a pretty swift 2-0 against you guys. It felt that they went into this final with more stuff that they had changed with their drafts and stuff than you guys did. Like, what was it like refining the playstyle for you guys? Was it changing bits of the draft? Like, what did you change going into this game? And do you think they changed too much with like the focus on the Human Torch ban to begin with?
They did, they used the ace in their, the hidden ace too early, I'd say, against us, and it really showed, because we were not ready for the bans or the comp they played, and that's why we just got absolutely destroyed, right? But now we look it over, we take 5 minutes to think about it, and it just it's just so much easier to play into. We're ready. We know what we expect. We weren't ready last time. This time we were gonna show them that we were mother ready.
Let's talk about the elephant or the Hulk in the room for this. Is Idrisil Path. I think you guys probably could have won the defense without the Lugia DC. What was going on in the comms when Tech decided to strike down on you?
Yeah, so the admins wrote to us, that we could win too early, because it wouldn't be fun the series. So the admins decided to DC Lugia, and I think that's fair. We couldn't have finished too fast. That wouldn't have been fun for anyone. No, but we didn't even realize. We were so focused on trying to just win the fight, because it was the last fight of the map. But it happens, and it didn't hold us back. We were just as hyped after as we were before, and we continued steaming ahead.
We were talking a little bit like in the middle of the last game and just at the end there, like if we were to give an unofficial MVP to any of you guys from like this final performance, we couldn't work it out because you all had like absolutely belter games. Who would you give it to? Because there's elements that we don't see, right? Like who is like the person talking about focusing on comms? Because every time there was like a stun from an Eye of Agamotto or a Stringler Prison, the strategist always went down first. Every one of you was focused on the right target consistently. Even you, just taking, I think it was on Araco, just taking pot shots at Alex. You were so focused at getting the picks there. Who would you give the MVP for your team to? Because you all played amazingly. What behind the scenes do we not get to see that deserves highlighting?
We have our manager, we have our coach. Those are two people who really help. Also me personally, but the whole team out. I'm a very inexperienced hero shooter player. I don't want to give the MVP necessarily to them because I think we all did our part. I don't want to point out one single person because I can't describe how proud I am of my entire team of coming in, keeping up the mental game after losing with the DC. Like I am so proud of every single one of these players on my team, and I know they're gonna go far. And same goes for management, same goes for everyone. There's just love all around at this point because I'm so proud of everyone.
Oh, no docs, but I noticed you've got a different background to our previous interviews. You guys boot camping right now?
No, it's been a very heavy month for me because I've been moving around. I moved apartment, so it's been very hectic. But I'm here now. I'm sitting in a fine shirt, and I'm here doing the interview because we just beat BRR BRR PATAPIM. I mean, like it cannot be greater. It just cannot be better. I'm here smiling. Life is good.
I remember you saying in podcasts before this, in winners interviews, that people are not putting enough respect onto you guys, that you're being underestimated. This must feel vindicating almost. Like, is there anything that you want to say going into playoffs now? Because you managed to just bounce back and you're at the seat of the table of like the EMEA powerhouses going into playoffs. So what do you have to say for your opponents for next week, I guess?
What's more...
Oh, your microphone's gone, I think, a little bit muffled.
Hello?
There you go, you're back. It was too brutal for broadcast.
My headset isn't working. It's been struggling sometimes. No, what basically is going on is that, we want to fly high. We're going to fly high. We're flying high right now. If you could hear the Discord, like it sounds like they're speaking Russian because I don't understand a word. But like we want to fly high right now, but we're going to maintain a steady stream ahead because we won the seeding. It's really advantageous for us, but we haven't won playoffs yet, all right? There's going to be so many amazing teams in this playoff, and we're going to keep our head in the game, and we're going to keep focusing until we do win.
All right. Thank you so much for coming to talk to us, Knudsen, and congratulations again on a massive win. Best